I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
It's a great day for being sad.
There's no point in you betraying your future self to gratify your present self. It's a stupid game.
Science. Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
good, and he looks hard.
That's hot.
A fucking bitch. Oh, girl, baby girl.
Equal parts. Oh my gosh.
Illegal.
Break now.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Climate and everything are the same word.
Follow the which way.
You should be ashamed of yourself for having that thought.
Close it up just like my wife's vagina.
Aren't I a good guy?
Don't even play.
Cow.
Well, it's good to see all you folks here. Sunday FUNDAY. So I'm sure there'll be absolutely nothing doomerific for us to look at today. Wait. No, hold on. There might be a couple things. Just checking my list. That said, it's time for us to get started. Make sure you buckle up those seatbelts, space fans. It's gonna be a dangerous ride through the void. Well, it's been quite a week. Thankfully, it seems that we're all still here. It does bring me some amount of solace. Well, we are, as usual, going to be starting in the United States. We're in a city called Rochester, New York. 6 people were shot at MLK Park, including 1 officer.
Six people were shot and a Rochester police officer injured at MLK Park early this morning. 1 person is in custody and police say it started with an argument. Gio Battaglia is live from the Public Safety Building to bring us up to speed on this developing story as we await yet another announcement from the mayor in just a few minutes. Gio.
Teresa, good evening. Yes, we will hear from Mayor Malik Evans in about 10 minutes, but here is what we know so far about this morning's shooting at MLK Park. Investigators say there was a large group of people in the park after hours when that argument started, and reportedly 1 person pulled a gun out and started firing it. Now, Rochester police officers who were near MLK Park at around 3 a.m. found a 33-year-old man with 1 gunshot wound to his lower body. A tourniquet was applied and he was taken to the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Shortly after, officers say 5 more victims, including 17 and 18-year-old boys, a 21-year-old man, and a 20 and 25-year-old female, were found and also taken to the hospital. Everyone's injuries were deemed non-life-threatening. Officers say as they were working to disperse this crowd, 38-year-old Joshua Sanchez blocked the officers and started to fight them. And while trying to take Sanchez into custody, 1 officer was injured and is currently being treated at the hospital. Rochester Police Chief David Smith is saying the officer will be out of work for quite a bit and describes what he calls a chaotic scene.
As I've said many times, we rely on our partner agencies, and that's exactly who came in last night. You know, you have to remember these scenes are very chaotic. It is very hard to determine, you know, quite frankly, who is suspect, who is victim, and what's going on, especially when you're dealing with crowds of this size. So again, our primary responsibility in these situations is to try and, you know, regain order, take charge, de-escalate the situation, and then sort things out.
Well, shockingly, someone's actually in custody for a shooting, which is not something that we report very often here on this channel. Good God. But that is a unfortunate story. People just trying to have a good time in a park, and somebody decides they didn't like something and just started shooting, you know, because that's the normal reaction here.
Rid of the Second Amendment.
Okay. Oh my God, we have 20 likes already, and you need support characters. Is that what you're saying? That's a 1. That's going to be a standard Bacula. That is an 8. I don't remember who 8 is. That might be Archer. I could be wrong. Okay. Now let's talk some politics here. We actually looked at part of some of these things we're about to look at right now. As you may recall, Donald Trump decided to go to a little, what do you call it? Gathering called the Faith and Freedom Conference, and said some real wild shit. Got a couple of clips here for you to look at. Start with this one.
Up and fast. Within moments of taking the oath of office, I will seal the border, stop the invasion, and send Joe Biden's illegal aliens back home where they belong.
Like 3 times in a row. This is wild. How is this happening?
Don't give me any of that, USA. Go out and vote. That's all I want.
Wow.
Don't say,
wow,
USA, USA, we love Trump, USA, and then November 5th comes along, or any of the previous.
Wow. Donald Trump is browbeating his voters. This is amazing. Don't say USA. Get out there and vote. Kind of hilarious. Because the fact is, I find it shocking because Republicans seem to really love rallies and stuff, but they do seem to forget about voting sometimes. And I believe that Christians vote less than any other Republican demographic, which I find shocking. It makes no sense. You blame The Apprentice? The show? You blame the show?
Days, you know, the early voting. But
or else they're fired. Yes, I think that's right. Yep. You're fired.
And then you say, darling, I'm just a little tired. I think I'll skip the vote. You can't do that. You got to vote. No USA right now. You just go out and vote. Then we'll go USA. Because then we're going to make our country great again. Biden is releasing criminals to prey on our people. That's what's happening. Thank you. Got to get out and vote, right? See this beautiful group of people. They'll be in Monte Carlo on November 5th. I don't think so. We all know the names of too many innocent victims of Biden migrant crime. It's a new category of crime. It's called Biden
we all know it.
Crime.
No, it's that that right-wingers have like hyper-focused on the two crimes that migrants have committed in the last, I don't know, 6 months. And just hyper-fixate. I don't think that that's being at all inflammatory. If you pay attention as much as I do to this shit. Oh my fucking god, it is wild. And it's contrary to any sort of, reality.
And I don't want reality.
Because as many of you may know, migrants happen to commit crimes at a much lower rate than American citizens.
Rid of the Second Amendment?
I thought I was gonna have more patience for this because fact is he says some fucking absolutely nonsense shit here. I'm trying to think of where hold on. I'm gonna skip forward through some of this because it's just painful to listen to.
A Creek in Houston allegedly murdered by two recent illegal border crossers from Venezuela. Viciously murdered. These monsters should never have been in our country, and if I were president, they would not have been in our country. We had a strong border. We had strong protection. And we had very strong protection. In Venezuela, we just mentioned these monsters from Venezuela. In Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. Can you believe it?
In Venezuela.
So I'm going to talk to Ralph Reed, and next year we're going to hold Faith and Freedom in Venezuela.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I think we missed part of what he was saying. But he was basically blaming crime in the United States on other countries sending their worst. That's pretty much right up Trump's alley. I can't remember where he starts listing off all of the plans he has in here, but let's go to this one because this one's even more idiotic. Yeah. This is Jesus Christ. This is Donald Trump at the same rally saying that he promises to create a new task force which will investigate, quote unquote, anti-Christian bias. Oh boy.
Jesus, I say that.
Is Melania still alive?
Republican Party.
Can't say for sure.
By contrast, Joe Biden is weaponizing the Justice Department to viciously persecute pro-life activists and Americans of faith. Just last month, the Biden DOJ got Paula Harlow, a 75-year-old woman in poor health, sentenced to 2 years in prison for singing outside.
Hold on. Oh shit, I don't have this article pulled up. I had to look this up because I was like, who the fuck is this? I can't remember her name. Did you say Paulina Harlow? Poppy Harlow? I don't think it's Poppy Harlow. It's somebody else. But who the hell is this person he's talking about? Never heard of them. But apparently a large portion of people here are aware of this. Not you, but the people at this event. But if you want to look her up, you go right ahead. But this is what I found out about her. She was not, in fact, jailed for praying. What she did do was get together with some other anti-abortion activists, chained themselves up outside of an abortion clinic, therefore preventing entry to the clinic. Basically barring people from getting health care. And so she was arrested for that, not praying, which is what Donald Trump is saying.
She was singing, actually, a beautiful voice. She was singing.
But the fact is Donald Trump is a big picture headlines kind of guy. He doesn't really look into stuff. And this did float around the right-wing sort of ecosphere for a while, basically saying that this poor old woman was just being just stamped down on by the vicious fascist liberal state that won't let old ladies pray. Oh, God, it's a pandemic.
Jesus, I say that.
Outside of a clinic, and fearing she would die in prison, her husband pleaded with the judge for mercy and even asked to be thrown in prison with his wife, and the judge responded by mocking their religion. He was mocking their religion. I wonder who that judge is.
I can
Paul
guarantee
is one of
that
many
didn't
peaceful
happen.
Pro-lifers who Joe Biden has rounded up, sometimes with SWAT teams, and thrown them in jail. Many people are in jail over this. This is just crazy. We're going to get that taken care of.
Wow.
Immediately, first day.
First day. He's got a lot of stuff for his first day. I've heard a lot of bad plans.
But let's call these brave Americans what they really are. It's persecuted Christians. That's what they're persecuted.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because these people are really the threat to democracy. You know, they have a whole thing about Donald Trump is the threat to democracy. I'm the one that got us out of the wars. I'm the one that defeated ISIS and got us out of all these wars. You know?
Yeah.
I'm the one that had the safest border in the history of our country, and now it's death. And, you know, when you talk about the bad border, you don't realize how many people are dying on the caravans coming up. They're dying because they're told, you know, come on up, and we're going to give you education, we're going to give you health care. They're destroying your Social Security.
Wait. What? Who are you blaming? What? I don't understand what he's saying. He's saying that migrants are dying because they're coming up here, and then we're telling them that they can't come in here? It seems like he's pro-open borders.
Social Security and your Medicare is being destroyed because millions of people are coming up, and you're not going to have it. Something's going to have to happen because they are destroying. Joe Biden is destroying your Social Security and many other things to reverse these monstrous.
Even the crowd doesn't know what to do with this one. Wait, Social Security? Are we supposed to like that one? Can't remember.
Uses of power. The moment I win election, and we're going to win. We got to win. If we don't win, we don't have a country. We don't have a country.
That's definitely not how it works.
You know, I used to say it in 2016, and I meant it. We were, you know, I thought that was the most important election. In 2020, I didn't say it. By the way, we got many millions of votes more in 2020 than we did in 2016. We got millions and millions of votes.
I think that's technically true, but
you
can still lose with more votes.
You got the same number, 63 million, that you win. We got millions and millions. That's by their count. And it was a terrible thing. And look at what's happened to our country in 3.5 years.
Wait, so what I love is that he accepts the count that has been done, but then refuses to accept the count for Joe Biden. Unacceptable. Fake votes. My vote's all real. Every single one. I checked them by hand, every single one of my votes, and they said, Mr. President, you don't have to. No. I'm going to check them all one by one. But no, those Joe Biden votes over there, I can't count those. Okay. Can I deal with listening to more of this right now? He still hasn't quite gotten to what his plans are.
It's not even the same place. It's not the same place.
It's just.
I always say we're a nation in decline. We're a nation
monologuing.
in really serious decline. But we will rapidly review the cases of every political
Very
prisoner
best
who's
votes.
unjustly victimized by the Biden regime,
Oh,
including
victimized
Paula,
by the regime.
so we can get them out of the
Oh,
gulags
wow.
and back to their families where they belong.
Uh-huh.
Paula, just hold on, Paula. We're gonna
Hold
get you out
on,
of there.
Paula.
Can you imagine this? This is
Okay.
a good woman, is a religious woman, and they throw her
She actually sounds like,
A fucking bitch.
in jail. I will also create a new federal task force on fighting anti-Christian bias. Its mission will be to investigate all forms of illegal discrimination, harassment, persecution against Christians in
who is
America.
harassing
And it's taking
Christians?
place at a level that nobody can
Oh
believe.
my God.
We're like a country from a different
Straw
country.
man
We're
time.
like-
Here we go.
This is not America anymore that we're living in. These people are
Uh-huh.
nasty. They're bad. They're bad. But you know what? We're tougher than they are. We're tougher than they are. But we have to be smart. We have to vote. We have to get out and vote. You cannot sit home. This one day you have to get out and vote. Never again will the federal government be used to target religious believers. America's of
Now, I find this argument that he keeps bringing up that everybody needs to go vote. I find it fascinating because for the last, just to be generous, I guess 5 years or so, he has been saying that the elections are rigged and that you can't trust them. All of his associates were doing the same thing. Some were jailed for it. Many are still under indictment over it. And he pardoned as many people as he could over it as well. But the fact is that it's a weird dichotomy, right? To be saying everybody needs to go out and vote in the rigged election. Okay. It's you. You're the one who's been harassing Christians. Okay, take it all back. We got one. That's clearly an epidemic. That's a witch hunt if I've ever seen one. One whole person? Well, that needs to be stopped. Right now. Unacceptable. Alright, we already looked at the story yesterday, but I want to look at this one again. Just to gloat. This is from CNN, where Trump media shares are now in free fall. Ever since he was convicted in the hush money trial in New York on 34 felonies. Seems out investors don't like it so much.
Take a look at this live look at the stock of the parent company of Trump's Truth Social business.
Truth Central.
Since Donald Trump's felony convictions in New York 3 weeks ago, Truth Social, its parent company, have lost roughly half its value. Trump media stock prices have been rapidly dropping since May, dealing a huge blow to the former president's net worth. CNN reporter Matt Egan is joining us right now. Matt, Truth Social is hurting right now big time. What is happening?
Well, this is a stock that is basically in free fall mode right now. Trump Media was trading above $50 as recently as May 30th. Of course, that's the day that Donald Trump was convicted here in New York. And within seconds of that conviction, we saw the stock price plunge, and it's just snowballed since then.
The very best stock plunge that you've ever seen historically. They tell me, sir, this stock plunge is better than any stock plunge we've ever seen before.
This company has now lost over half of its value in just 3 weeks. It's staggering losses. The spark for this week's sell-off was the fact that regulators gave a green light to investors who own what's known as warrants to buy extra stock in this company. It's a move that could allow Trump Media to raise extra money, but it's also going to water down existing shareholders, and that has spooked some investors. I don't want to assign too much logic here, though, to the stock moves, because remember, experts have said that Trump Media is basically a meme stock. It is
Yeah, well, it is worthless. It has zero earnings. In fact, it's just losing money every month. It's basically, I feel like he should have stuck with the NFTs, honestly. It would have been just as worthful. That's not the word. You get what I'm saying. The stock, no better than NFT, essentially. Negative earnings, and now Trump has lost half of at least a portion of his net worth. You would think a great portion, considering all the debts and other things he's got flying around these days. And it gives me some catharsis, if you will, watching that story. Now, let's talk a little bit about Pride, as it is still Pride Month going on, and I feel like we haven't been talking about it very much lately. But let's look here in San Francisco, where many came out.
The streets of San Francisco were full of people returning to Pride's roots of protest in the 5th annual People's March and Rally.
It followed the same route as the city's first gay liberation march. That happened 52 years ago in June of 1970. NBC Bay Area's Christy Smith is in San Francisco.
I wanted us to rise together in hope.
In San Francisco's Polk Gulch neighborhood, people came together.
The People's March is for Black, brown, and indigenous queer folks and their allies.
Community leaders and activists Alex Yuen and Juanita Moore are behind the People's March and Rally, now in its 5th year.
We decided to put a voice behind our people and our community, and that's why we started the People's March.
This march is really talking about everything that's happening in the queer community, whether it's the over 500 bills that are going through the country right now. There's immigration that's happening to our queer people that's affecting us really, really badly.
When trans rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up like that.
The group started at Polk and Washington streets and marched down Polk.
This was where the first gay pride march was, and that was in 1970 here on Polk Street. And it started with activism.
It was a big protest.
Yeah.
And it should stay a protest because we are protesting for our lives every day.
Once in a lullaby. There were songs and speeches and a commitment to keep pushing on.
I marched for the people that have come before me, the people that are going to come after me.
In San Francisco, Christy Smith, NBC Bay Area News.
You gotta say that golden, what do you call it?
Day 2 of Pride.
The thing was fly. The thing was fly as fuck. Those are just facts. Write that down. Okay, now let's move to the center of the country in Denver, where... and by the way, before I move on, I do like the framing of that, because they're right. The fight's not over, and to see it in this framing as a protest, I think highlights the struggle that is still ongoing as it relates to the rights of LGBT people in the United States. But now, to Denver.
Day 2 of Pride Fest in downtown Denver, and this morning the 50th annual Pride Parade. It was a whole lot of fun out there today, and organizers tell us it is the 3rd largest parade of its kind in the country. We at Denver 7 are proud sponsors of Pride Fest and the Pride Parade. Our Allie Jennerjohn was out there in the heat today, which did not stop us from celebrating who we are.
Marching to the beat of their own drum. Denver Pride Parade participants flood Colfax Avenue with cheers, flags, and lots of colors.
It's amazing. I love Pride every year. The audience is so energetic, and the crowd is really what I look forward to.
The route packed with spectators, old and young.
It's just genuinely fun watching all the parade happen. Sometimes when the floats come, sometimes they throw out stuff, and I usually catch all of the stuff they throw out.
It's a family event for many and a tradition for some.
We've been coming since we were teenagers. We've been bringing them since they were kids, and it's nice, the celebrations, the joy of love, acceptance, everybody getting to be who they're supposed to be.
Pride, baby! A celebration of love and identity.
Just to be out here and be visible, because we exist. We're your neighbors, we're your doctors, we're your lawyers, we're the people who teach your kids in school.
It was a 2-day festival.
We did the Pride 5K yesterday, and the energy was amazing.
With proceeds supporting the Center on Colfax. In Denver, Allie Jennerjohn, Denver 7.
I second the great energy out there, and we'll have more from myself, my daughter, and the rest of the Denver 7 team at the parade in just a little bit. We also...
Speaking of that, let's go straight to this one.
Well, as we mentioned, this weekend marks Denver's 50th annual Pride Fest, celebrating the LGBTQ+ community, and the festivities include the Denver Pride Parade. Your reporter, Kennedy Cook, was there, as was I, and dozens of other members of your CBS Colorado team.
Happy Pride!
Happy Pride! It's Pride, y'all!
Absolutely Pride. Denver Pride Fest was in full swing all weekend long. The two-day festival, including a Pride 5K, live music and performances, and on Sunday morning, thousands of people filled Cheeseman Park ahead of the Pride Parade. Many returning faces, but some first-timers as well.
I mean, I think it's so awesome that this is the first time that CBS Colorado has taken part in the Pride Parade, and what a year to do it for the 50th year of Pride in Colorado.
Your CBS Colorado team packed our first alert weather tracker and joined in on all the fun to celebrate all of Colorado.
Being able to be at an organization where you can be an out person and your company is marching with you, saying we're with you, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, it makes working there better, you know?
Pride Fest says they want to make sure no one in their community ever feels alone, like the three-generational Williams family who showed up to support their queer child.
I am proud to be one of the grandmas of one of the entertainers.
I'm glad my family has that space of love for me to support me in whatever I do.
Or your local fire department.
We want to represent the community that we serve in every way that we possibly can.
Joining together to celebrate people for who they are.
Okay. I just thought that we should, you know, enjoy the month of Pride along with everyone else, especially since it's Sunday FUNDAY. Seemed like the thing to focus in on, at least for a moment here. We do have other things to do, unfortunately. Let's press on. Okay, let's go to this. This story was slightly frustrating to me. It may very well be frustrating to you. This is from PBS NewsHour from 4 hours ago, where according to them in this report that they've done, there are private firms illegally profiting from veterans' disability claims. Let's find out more.
In the 2 years that the landmark expansion of veterans benefits known as the PACT Act has been in effect, more than 1 million disability claims have been approved and more are on the way. But as Lisa Desjardins reports, a number of for-profit companies are also reaping benefits, even though what they do is against the law.
The bipartisan PACT Act is the largest expansion of veterans benefits in a generation, including care for veterans exposed to burn pits. Some 3.5 million people could benefit, and the program could near $1 trillion in spending. As the disability claims grow, so have the profits of private firms pledging to help those with claims. That's despite a federal law banning companies from charging vets for those types of services. According to a Washington Post report, scores of uncredited for-profit companies are making hundreds of millions of dollars helping veterans file disability claims.
This is wild.
Patrick Murray is legislative director at the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And Patrick, let's just back up. How is it that these firms are making money off of this work with veterans?
What they do is falsely offer veterans hope that they can get their claims done better and faster if you pay for it. As you mentioned, it is illegal, but right now there's no penalty for actually breaking the law. In 2006, that was removed. So these companies are operating in a legal loophole that allows them to charge exorbitant fees and not be held accountable.
Yeah, and the problem is that in 2006, they took away the law that made it, well, they didn't actually take away the law. They took away the possibility of jail time for doing it. So it's illegal.
Illegal.
But no penalty. It just makes no sense. It makes no fucking sense. It's very, very frustrating to me, and I don't even think we can dedicate more time to this right now. I have no other comment decides from to say, hey, maybe we should go back to making that illegal. Sounds completely fucked up, because as it turns out, not only is it illegal, in no way is it possible for them to expedite the people's claims. The way that it all works within the system is it's a first come first served basis. So in fact, you may be kicking yourself for having taken more time hiring somebody to do it who may take longer than you to just file the paperwork and send it in. And it's unfortunate, because essentially people are being bilked out of literally hundreds of millions of dollars, like they just said, to do something that is illegal and not actually helpful. All right, let's talk about this story since we're already on the subject of health. This is from 10 hours ago from BBC News, where a new study has shown that a space hairdryer may regenerate heart tissue.
New research suggests gentle shock waves could be used to regenerate the heart tissue of patients after bypass surgery. An Austrian study found those who received the new treatment were able to walk longer distances a year later, and their hearts were able to pump more blood. This report from our health correspondent Jim Reed does contain images of open heart surgery.
58-year-old Josef is being wheeled off to theatre for a heart bypass operation. Like millions around the world, he lives with heart disease, and last year it all came to a head.
I felt a stab of pain that moved into my left hand. Then I was short of breath. I had this kind of fear of death, where you don't know what to do next and what's going to happen.
But today, Josef will have some unusual treatment as part of his surgery. The doctors at this Austrian hospital will apply mild shock waves to his damaged heart to help it regenerate. This handheld machine is designed to deliver sound waves, setting off a chain reaction inside the tissue and stimulating the growth of new blood vessels.
This is wild.
Johannes Holfeld is the surgeon about to perform this new treatment.
Okay, so what I do now is take the heart, the beating heart, and we can now start, please. This is a patient with a severely reduced heart function due to chronically undersupplied heart muscle. And with shockwave therapy, we can induce the formation of new blood vessels, and thereby the heart muscle gets strengthened.
In a trial of 63 patients, those who had the new therapy were able to recover more quickly and their hearts pumped more blood.
This is amazing. I never would have expected that to be somehow beneficial to the recovery of a heart surgery patient, but hey,
it's science.
Pretty sweet. Apparently these because the fact is, out of the 63 people, there's what do you call it, some amount of control subjects, but every single patient who received the actual treatment was saw improvement, which is incredible. It was a really incredible result, honestly. Usually it's not 100% on these kinds of things. Okay. Now, let's move on to something else technology-related. We actually have a few technology-related things to get us going into our environmental portion of the stream today. You know what I should do, which I just keep forgetting to do all the time? I should do this. I think we all, not all, but at least some of us saw the story recently, but I just wanted to look at this again just because it's something we talk about a lot, and I think that there's definitely some what do you call it, some serious relevance to this for us to
consider what we're talking about all the time with regards to how we fix the environment. Okay, now let's go to here. Some global news from a day ago where they are asking the question, who exactly benefits from electric vehicle subsidies?
In survey after survey, consumers have said the biggest barrier to buying an electric vehicle is the price.
They remain kind of at the price point of what we used to consider luxury vehicles.
Yeah. So, to help overcome that barrier and get more people into electric vehicles, the federal government pays buyers of a select group of EVs a subsidy of up to $5,000. That subsidy program cost the Treasury more than $900 million in the last 2 years and will eat up nearly $600 million this year. But those
Now, the United States has some very similar subsidies. Oh, I see a bunch of emotes in the Twitch chat. God, Twitch does really have better emotes. It's just true. But YouTube is so much better for other things. It's kind of a conundrum. But yeah, unfortunately, it's not poor people who this benefits. It's sort of, the way I see this is trickle-down environmental policy, hoping that subsidizing the top end, the most luxury portion of this technology, which is supposed to be saving our environment, and hoping that those purchases somehow allow companies to, make it cheaper for people on the bottom end, right? And that's not what happens. That's definitely not what happens. Because the fact is all these companies are just paying themselves and their stockholders as much as fucking possible. That's their only goal. Even the ones that are claiming to be about the environment, like Tesla, let's be fucking real. Elon Musk and their stockholders just awarded Elon this $56 million pay package, which essentially equates to the wages of every single one of the 150,000 plus workers at Tesla, their combined yearly salary, right? Like, this is not a company that cares about the environment. That just this just is just wild. It's just about enriching themselves, and we gotta stop using trickle down economics in general, but especially as it relates to fixing the climate and expecting these sorts of things to somehow incentivize companies to fix things. It's not gonna do it.
Checks tend to go to some of the country's wealthiest consumers.
I do find that EV ownership is biased towards affluent households for, in part, the simple reason that EVs today are simply more expensive than the average car.
Global News did its own analysis using motor vehicle registration data cross-referenced against household income data for federal ridings. And sure enough, ridings with high household income also had the most EV owners. Take the 7 ridings in Vancouver, for example, here arranged by median income, lowest to highest. Now, here's the number of electric vehicles in each riding per 1,000 people. Higher income levels equals higher rates of EV ownership. That's a correlation that holds in communities right across the country.
The wealthier...
Yeah. Now, we could, in fact, do some things to make it so that getting electric vehicles is cheaper. Like, I don't know, not putting tariffs on Chinese EVs, which are much, much cheaper. They were planning on bringing a $10,000 electric vehicle to the United States, but it was banned and also tariffed. I don't know why you would ban and tariff something, but we've done both because that makes sense, just in case. Oh, God, I wouldn't want to cut into the profits of Ford and Tesla. That would be wrong. Okay. Let's move on to this. This is from PBS Terra from 3 days ago. Finding the biggest, quote-unquote, reason to feel hopeful about climate change. The biggest was what was in quotes, because they're making some sort of a pun.
According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the most weight ever lifted by a human is 2.4 metric tons when a dude named Greg Ernst hoisted 2 cars with drivers on his back in 1993. That was an impressive feat, but that's nothing compared to what this can do. In order to build what humans are capable of imagining, we've had to build machines that can do much, much more.
One of those machines is behind me, and above me, and all around me, honestly. It's the world's largest crane. This can lift 5,000 tons. That's 11 million pounds, like lifting the SpaceX Starship Heavy, the largest rocket ever constructed, in one piece. But okay, it's actually pretty hard to understand that scale with numbers alone. I think you have to see it to understand. This crane is huge, but its job is even bigger. In fact, machines like this are helping engineers solve perhaps the most gargantuan challenge humanity's ever faced at a speed and scale that no one has ever achieved before. So what is that challenge? What is the incredible science that makes lifting on this scale even possible? And can I convince them to let me drive this big fella? Well, we'll find out. And spoiler alert on that last one. Yep, I can see us winding over here.
That thing is freaking huge.
We're visiting this crane in Rotterdam Harbor at the headquarters of Mammoth, the heavy lifting company who built it.
It's real big. It's real big.
This type of lifting giant is called a ring crane because it rotates and distributes its load around this track more than 50 meters across. Those winches hold more than 16 kilometers of steel rope. And the hook at the end of those lines is larger than a delivery truck. But every component of this colossal crane can be packed into shipping containers or folded into shipping container-sized pieces to be shipped anywhere in the world like a giant Lego set. Even besides its size, this crane is unusual. See, the cranes you and I are used to, they lift little pieces at a time, so something can be built on site.
But there are places and problems where engineers have to think bigger and that require them to lift absolutely gigantic, fully built things in place all at once. Refineries, ship parts, nuclear power plants, giant Ferris wheels. And the biggest problem of all, the one that this crane is helping people tackle, is climate change.
Greenhouse gas emissions from human activities are causing increased global temperatures, extreme weather events, and sea level rise, threatening ecosystems and human societies. On our current trajectory, humanity faces widespread species extinctions, disruptions to our food and agriculture, and large-scale displacement of populations. The good news is, we know how to fix this. According to experts, to limit rising temperatures, we need to shift most or all of the world's energy production to cleaner, renewable sources like solar, nuclear, hydro, geothermal, and wind. And we need to do it in the next couple decades.
Huge strides have been made towards this goal. But to put this into perspective, today renewables provide about 1/3 of the world's electricity. And in 2023, the world added 510 gigawatts of new renewable energy. It's impressive. But in order to reach the temperature goals promised in the Paris Agreement, we'd have to install 3 times that much renewable energy every year until 2030. It's going to take a lot of work.
Needs to be at least 3 times as big.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. So hot right now.
Transitioning the world to renewable energy that quickly is arguably the most significant infrastructure and engineering challenge humanity has ever faced. Now, there are many obstacles.
You know, it would have been better if I said, what is this? Climate change for ants?
Standing in the way of that energy transition. Access to capital, modernizing energy grids, speeding up regulations, more raw materials, and energy storage. Giant cranes can't solve any of those problems, but they can help in one important way.
Offshore wind is one of the renewable energy industry's secret weapons in the energy transition. And these wind turbines are absolutely enormous.
Seriously.
To catch strong sea winds, their generating nacelles sit up to 150 meters above the surface. Their blades sweep a circle more than 250 meters across. That's the area of 7 soccer fields or the footprint of the Great Pyramid of Giza. The largest can make more than 16 megawatts of energy, meaning a single turbine can power thousands of homes. There's even more going on under the surface. Each tower sits on giant fixed or floating foundations more than 100 meters high and weighing thousands of tons each. Bigger turbines mean we can generate more power from a given area, and that these projects can be completed faster and cheaper. But when it comes to building bigger, better wind turbines, it might surprise you that engineers aren't limited by physics, or what they can design, or even what they can imagine. You simply can't build a wind turbine bigger than the machines you have to put it together.
So if you want to actually build a bigger wind turbine that can generate more electricity, then you need a machine that can actually move those giant parts into place. That is where this comes in.
So yeah, I just wanted to look at this. You never wanted to learn this. You know, I'm sorry for subjecting you to learning on Sunday Funday, but it seemed better than Doom. This was a Doom solution, which I think we all appreciate here to some degree. Yes, sorry, not sorry. So, you know. But yeah. In order to build these things bigger and better, we need even crazier machines to build them. You specifically never wanted to know how cranes are built. Well, I'm sorry. How was I to know that you had this sort of aversion to cranes? Huh? All right, moving on from cranes. Let's look at some other stuff. What is next? I've lost my place. Oh yeah, okay. Here we are. We looked at this part yesterday, but I just found this fascinating, so we're gonna look at this one again. I feel like I've done this a lot lately, where I'm just like, I gotta watch this one again. It's happening. Mostly because I just find this fascinating, and I hope it does work. But you know, I guess we'll see, because it's sort of a newer scientific discovery / experiment. But this farmer is taking part in an unusual experiment to help farms thrive amid rising temperatures.
With planet warming carbon dioxide levels the highest they've been in nearly 3 million years, many farmers say they've been battling record-breaking high temperatures that affect their crops. One farmer in Illinois is taking part in an unusual experiment to try to cut carbon emissions while improving his soil and crops. This past winter, Roxana Saberi got an up-close look at the process at its earliest stage.
On this farm in central Illinois, Eric Schott is scattering more than just seeds.
What is this? So this is the concrete dust from silicate.
Yep, crushed concrete. Nearly 50 tons of it over 23 acres.
You are the first farmer in America trying this. That is a fact.
The 6th-generation farmer signed on to an experiment to see if this dust will work some magic by...
Is it called greenhouses? No, it's called concrete.
helping him grow more crops while cutting greenhouse gases.
We're all excited to find out at the end of the day if it's fact or fiction. So why concrete dust?
We're trying to combat climate change, and if we apply this concrete dust to farmland, it can draw down carbon dioxide, removing it from the atmosphere.
Biologist Morris Bryson, who's running the research, admits it may sound a bit crazy.
It doesn't seem to make sense.
I guess it doesn't. It may be counterintuitive. It's a grey, man-made material.
After all, cement, the main ingredient in concrete, is responsible for nearly 7% of the world's planet-warming carbon dioxide emissions. But Bryson says he and his company, called Silicate, are simply trying to speed up a natural process known as weathering. That's when, over millions of years, rain breaks down rocks, causing them to release elements that can capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it.
Yeah, and they've actually tested this in Ireland, where this scientist is from, and it appears to be working, both in capturing carbon, but also somehow, and I don't understand how, but improving crop yield. That one I genuinely can't explain. Thankfully, they had a nice little infographic on how the carbon capture works, even if it's simplified down. But it's just wild. It's super cool. So I figured we would look at that again. All right, now we got some climate-related stories here from around the world to discuss. How deep are we in? An hour? Not terrible. Let's go to this one first. In South Dakota, where they have been absolutely inundated with floodwaters as storms have been going through the Midwest recently. Yeah, that's a lot of flooding. Oh shit. Wow, some of those mobile homes down there are just completely underwater. Those RVs, holy shit. What do you think that is? A horse racing track? Can't tell. All right. But yeah, they're not the only state that's been flooding recently, at least this week. In the United States, we looked at Iowa yesterday. They were underwater after a sudden storm. Let's look at this in Denver, where for this week coming up, they're going to be getting hit by another heat advisory with temperatures in the triple digits.
Now our highs today were in the 90s and triple digits for northeastern Colorado. It will be even warmer going into tomorrow. Our next weather maker, it's the heat advisory showing up for Monday and Tuesday. Temperatures will be between 95 and 100 degrees both days. It will be slightly cooler by the middle of the week, but temperatures will still be in the 80s and 90s on our Super 7-day forecast. Today, 98 for our high, 104 the record set back in 2012, and on average, we should be around 86 degrees this time of year for an afternoon high. Now downtown at this point is still 90.
Average of 86. Instead, it's going to be 100. Good fucking God.
So hot right now.
Climate change is real, folks.
Climate and everything are the same word.
Oh, God. Okay. Let's look at this story that CBS Evening News has done from a couple hours ago, where they talk about the extreme heat and the flooding at the same time. Thank you for nutshelling for us.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us on this Sunday. Tonight, more than 1 million people are under flood warnings across the Midwest. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds calling the flooding in her state catastrophic. Drone footage right there shows some towns almost completely submerged. Days of heavy rain have forced evacuations and rescues in several states, some rivers at record levels. And there's no escaping the heat in much of the country. Look at that map. There have been at least 8 confirmed deaths so far. CBS's Chanel Call is in New York and tracking it all for us tonight. Chanel, good evening.
Good evening, Jerika. And while relief is now finally in sight for millions of Americans who've been experiencing this unusually early heat wave for the last week, residents in the Midwest and the Plains are seeing a very different kind of extreme weather.
Record high floodwaters came fast in Rock Valley, Iowa.
I can tell you the devastation is severe and it's widespread.
Parts of the state saw nearly 6 inches of rain in just 24 hours. Flash flooding cut off power to wastewater treatment plants in at least 2 cities.
Every day it's wet and raining
Oh
and
shit,
raining and raining.
the water
Starting
is
to build a
hitting the
hurricane.
bridge.
In Minnesota, the
Oh,
Crow
my
River is
God.
expected to reach record levels above 19 feet. The governor there is calling in the National Guard after days of severe weather turned cities into waterways. From extreme rain to extreme heat. The National Weather Service is issuing a heat
Hold
advisory.
on. We gotta look at that machine. What the fuck is that? Look at that thing. Holy cow. The Power Breeze Mach 4.
To extreme heat. The National Weather Service is issuing a heat advisory to more than 100 million Americans from coast to coast.
Very hot. It's too hot.
The nation's capital cracked the triple digits this weekend, the first time June temperatures have been that high.
Ugh.
And in California, temperatures in some parts of the state could get as high as 106 degrees. Firefighters say the heat can make an already tough job that much more challenging.
Yeah, we've been seeing the effects of this weather recently with, you know, the massive fucking fires in California. I mean, good God, like just so many things, one after another. Okay, let's go to this story. I guess we'll look at this one, then we'll skip one or two. No, we'll skip this one. Go to this one. How long will the heat stick around? 2 hours
More
ago.
than 100 million.
CBS News. Let's see. How long will it stick around? You tell me.
For more on the extreme weather, let's check in with meteorologist Andrew Kozak with more. Andrew, what do you have?
Good evening, Jerika. You know, so many of us are sweltering for the 8th or 9th day in a row in some cases. We're going to start off with Southern California, where it could feel as hot as 115 for areas like Palm Springs through at least Thursday. And now the Midwest, from nearly the Canadian border all the way down to the Gulf Coast, could be feeling temperatures as hot as 110. And tonight, the East Coast is still looking at heat index values as high as 105 from New York to D.C. and all the way down to the Carolinas. Of course, we're also watching the massive Midwest flooding from Minnesota to Iowa to South Dakota. Floodwaters finally starting to recede after impacting millions of people. And then finally tonight, on this Sunday evening, still watching severe weather in the Northeast. New England from New York all the way to Maine. Severe storms capable of producing tornadoes, large hail, and winds over 70 miles per hour. Jerika, no shortage of impactful weather this weekend and heading.
No shit. Okay, so I didn't feel like you told me exactly how long this is going to last. But thanks for the clickbait title. Seems like it's going to be going on indefinitely for a while, at least in many places in the country. Okay. Thanks, CBS. Alright, let's fucking look at this. To wrap up our discussion of at least American heat. This is just a little video of New Yorkers trying to stay cool during New York City's first official heat wave of 2024.
That's hot.
But first, a sweltering heat wave blankets the city with even hotter temperatures expected tomorrow. Vanessa has the details in your first alert forecast. Good evening. I'm Jessica Moore. We begin with that weather and the extreme heat. We're on red alert tonight because of the excessive temperatures and because of possible severe thunderstorms in our area tomorrow. We have team coverage on the latest for you at 11. CBS News' Allie Bauman checked in on New Yorkers doing their best to keep cool in the heat. But first, meteorologist Vanessa Murdoch is breaking down the advisories in place. Vanessa.
Yeah, we have both heat advisories and extreme heat warnings in effect through the day tomorrow. So
So our red alert stays in play through tomorrow as well. Today, what went down, we officially marked our first heat wave of 2024 in the city. Highs at the low to mid 90s for 3 days straight now makes it that first heat wave, but we expect tomorrow to be the hottest day yet. Now, highs around the region this afternoon topped out at 100 in Lakehurst, noting the normal high is 82. It was 93 in the Park, 89 for White Plains, and
Jesus
98
Christ.
for a high today in Somerville. Newark marked its day number 6 of a heat wave with a high of 95 this afternoon. That was 11 degrees above the norm, but not a record.
All right, hold on. We're going to move past this and actually watch people trying to stay cool.
It's been one of those days when you just want to run through a sprinkler.
It feels cold and refreshing.
Even as an adult,
Yeah,
New
no
Yorkers
kidding.
spent Saturday
That guy
sweating through
is like,
90-degree
fuck it.
heat and
Fuck it,
humidity.
I don't give a shit if I'm a grown man. This is happening right now.
Even as an adult, New
I can
Yorkers
understand
spent Saturday
that vibe.
sweating through 90-degree heat and humidity.
Yeah, it's kind of unbearable.
For Tafara Melman, Central Park is a relief from her apartment where the AC is on the fritz.
But I borrowed this fan from my grandmother, and I don't know, it's really helping a lot.
Over in New Rochelle, Con Edison crews worked to restore power after hundreds were left in the dark Saturday afternoon.
I think it's a disaster to all the people that live in this area who have to face a very, very hot night without the proper air condition or fan.
Con Ed's plea for customers to conserve energy may be more important than ever. The utility company is negotiating a contract with the union representing field crews and customer service workers. If a deal isn't reached before Sunday, the union may strike.
Right now, the 8,000 members will not be out providing the public with the utility that they need. And during this heat, I don't think we want to get to that point.
The New York City office of
Maybe we should be more respectful of workers and they won't have to go on strike. Maybe, you know? Maybe we should nationalize the electric grid and the electric companies. Kind of change up that whole dynamic, in fact. Just an idea. Just throwing that out there. But yeah. Inopportune time for many, but kinda can't really argue with the other side, as you probably know my view of this. So yeah, let's move on to this, which is a very positive sort of very positive sort of report. Solidarity, yep, yes indeed. Why are we talking about urine right now in chat? I feel like I've seen a bunch of messages go by, and I at least have noticed that word multiple times. What was I saying? Oh yes, positive story. This is from PBS NewsHour. Keeping it fun day on a Sunday. Meet the 9th grader who's been helping to restore Mississippi's oyster reefs.
Over the past 2 decades, the oyster population in Mississippi's Gulf waters has been devastated by natural and man-made disasters, including Hurricane Katrina and the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Among those working to restore oyster habitats, called oyster reefs, is a 9th grader named Demi Johnson. The National Geographic Society recently recognized her work over the past 2 years, growing more than 1,000 oysters. And those oysters are likely to spawn millions more in the years to come. Recently, I spoke with Demi and asked her what goes into an oyster farm.
First, you obviously need oysters, and you need a pier to do it off of, and you need cages, and you need to be able to do weekly maintenance on these oysters.
What does it take to sort of raise oysters? I mean, you don't plant them, you don't put them in the ground like seeds. How does it work?
So
That's what
you're
I
gonna
thought
put oysters in a cage, and then you're going to have a rope, and you're going to tie it to the outside part of a pier. And naturally, if you were to drop these cages in while they're tied up, they're going to be just kind of in the water. Honestly, when it comes to like maintaining or taking care of, once a week is fine. just to shake the cages and to get the critters out because they are seen as a food source to other animals. Once I'm done with the oyster gardening, they are dumped out into another area and they start to become their own reef.
How did you get started in this? How did you get interested in it?
So I found out about this through my Girl Scout troop, specifically from my Girl Scout leader. So there's a thing called a silver award, and you have to do a project for your community, something community-based. And she just kind of put it up in the air. She was like, hey, you can do oyster gardening at my pier. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. Like, it doesn't sound too bad. And, you know, it's just something easy for me to do.
And then a researcher at Auburn University found out about you, I understand, and has actually become a mentor. What have you gotten out of working with her?
I've gotten a bunch of information about oyster gardening. So when I first started oyster gardening or starting this project, I had no clue about this. I only thought oysters could be eaten. I didn't know they could be used for restoration. So I was able to learn a lot through her. And
most people don't know this. So, I mean, I think it's just
more opportunity.
You know, this is just such a great story. But like, I mean, I was aware of that fact. If people weren't here, I think many people here probably are, because we did stories about this, I think, a few months ago, talking about how oysters are a vital part of keeping coastlines intact. And yeah, I just thought this was a great story. I do wish we didn't rely on 9th graders to figure out how to save our climate. It does seem a little bit negligent on the part of the people in power. Not that I don't absolutely encourage this girl to be doing what she's doing. It just, you know, it's one of those things, right, where I'd love it if our governments would also get involved in this kind of stuff. Didn't leave it up to children in high schools, 9th graders. She must be like 14 years old or something. I mean, we maybe want to take it a little more seriously. Just gonna point that out. Thankfully, we have her. What a wild statement to say. Okay, because we were talking about sea otters. Let's look at this. Just because it's Sunday Fun Day, and I find this. I always find these to be great.
Kevin, could you get me the 3?
No, hold on. Okay. Because we were talking about sea otters, which do eat oysters as a food source, I figured we'd talk about this, because if you didn't know, sea otters are one of the only marine mammals that use tools. Although most of their tools are rocks.
Kevin, could you get me the 3/8 from my toolbox? Kevin, hurry up in there.
It's just a box of
Don't
rocks.
keep me waiting, pal. Just grab the 3/8.
Just grab the 3/8.
The 3/8.
It's a goddamn existential crisis. That's not how you fix it.
Kevin, could you get me the fire extinguisher?
No, God.
You found it yet, Kev? Hurry up in there. Kevin, the fire extinguisher. Kevin.
Kevin. Oh, no. Okay, see, we can still have fun. We can still have fun from time to time. Okay, what was I doing? Yes, more things. All right, let's go south to Latin America. Kevin, the 3/8. Okay. As we've been talking about over this last week, not hurricane, tropical storm Alberto made landfall. I think it was Thursday. And hovered over Mexico and sort of came back on itself to Latin America. I think I'm getting that right. And there has been some serious flooding going on in Latin America, which has killed at least a dozen people. Let's go to this story from Al Jazeera from a day ago.
A rush to find survivors buried in the mud, following days of heavy rains in El Salvador. The rains triggered landslides, destroying homes and cutting off entire communities. Authorities say several people are trapped in destroyed buildings.
There are 19 people who have died so far, including 2 children and 3 adults in the past 24 hours. There are 104 active shelters, and we've had more.
You need another support character. Okay, hold on. Is that a 15? Who's 15? Ooh, oh. The Pink Panther. We haven't seen the Pink Panther yet. There we go. Hold on. You fixed a computer with a hammer, and it was the appropriate. Are you defending this otter dad and his system of tools? I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I've actually fixed a computer with an oven before. That also was the appropriate tool. Sometimes you don't expect these kinds of things to have any sort of positive effect on a thing such as a computer. But computers are weird. Although I am struggling to think of in what scenario a hammer was necessary.
3,000 people in those shelters.
In Chile, entire towns are underwater. The government has issued warnings for several regions, saying floodwater levels could rise further.
The river overflowed and the water canal grew. We think it's because of the construction companies buying land uphill and making the rivers smaller.
The situation is not better in Honduras. Rivers have broken their banks, submerging homes and farms.
At about 5 o'clock in the morning, it started to rain heavily, and by 10 o'clock in the morning, the house was flooded.
Severe floods have also hit northern Mexico, forcing thousands to be taken to temporary shelters.
All of the streets were destroyed. We don't have anything to eat. No electricity, water, nothing. The road was destroyed. When I left my home, everything was destroyed.
Across the region, rescue efforts are expected to continue for days.
Okay, so yeah, things are not so good in Latin America right now, and there are some accusations that this is being exacerbated by corporations affecting water flow upriver. I don't have a lot more details on that, just that one man stating his allegations there, and I am kind of likely to believe it, considering the history of corporate malfeasance in Latin America. Let's go across the pond now to London, where thousands marched in a call for urgent climate action.
They've come from all over Britain to make noise against nature's decline. Marching through central London, more than 300 environmental groups demanded action on climate change, with mainstream organisations shoulder to shoulder with known disruptors like Just Stop Oil, best known for their traffic-stopping slow walks, but today toning down their tactics for a joint cause.
I've done lots of walking slowly. I've been sent to prison for that. It's quite nice to be here today, not getting arrested, actually. There's a solidarity across those movements and the alignment we all have in the face of what is ecological and climate collapse. that we must act and our governments must act.
Yeah, and I do think we need more. Wait a second. Wait, where do I know this lady from? I absolutely know this lady. Oh my god. But she usually isn't wearing a t-shirt. Who the fuck is that? Oh my god. Oh, it's killing me. Somebody help me with that. I'm pretty sure she's very well known. But we do need more of these sort of broad mass action. She's an actress, right? Yeah. Yeah, that was my thinking too. I just cannot fucking... Emma Thompson, thank you. Thank you, B-Cat. You're here for us, and I appreciate you. What was I saying? We do need more like mass action protests on the climate, as it's too easy. It's too fucking easy. I've seen it time and time again where smaller protests that are slightly more extreme are demonized in the media time and time and time again. And you know, at some point, you know, you gotta, you know, find a tactic that works. And I think that mass demonstrations are much more effective because it's harder to demonize, you know, thousands of people at once. Although people still do it, don't get me wrong. But yeah. But yes, thank you for telling me. That was gonna kill me. I was like, who the fuck is this lady?
That message echoed by actress Emma Thompson, lending her
she said it
support
right
to
there.
the march.
We have to act now. We were told this decades ago, and we still continue to watch governments ignore the obvious.
And amid the music and the props, it's tangible action that the marchers want.
Protesters here today say they have several demands for the authorities. They want businesses who pollute the environment to pay more to restore it. They want damaging fossil fuels to be replaced by affordable renewables. And crucially, they want the introduction of a new law that would put nature in the heart of every policy. What do we want? Climate voters!
As Britain heads for a general election on the 4th of July, people here say major parties have failed to offer any substantial environment pledges.
Politicians don't think it's something that's...
I loved that penguin. That was a great penguin outfit.
People are concerned about, and it's not something that they don't think that people will vote with that in mind. But I will.
The world is changing rapidly.
Yeah, the world is changing rapidly, sir. And I have been hearing about a lot of people in Britain thinking about voting green, which I think would be great. Although we do need this sort of action, this sort of level of seriousness in the, you know, public consciousness in the United States, because, you know, we're the #1 emitter per capita. You know, per person, we are emitting the most greenhouse gases and hydrocarbons into the atmosphere. I'm not saying the UK doesn't have their hands in it. They certainly do. But America, we gotta be #1 at being shitty. So, not enough. It's great, and it makes me happy, but I'm gonna remind us all that we need more. Gotta take it seriously. Okay, now let's look at another sort of positive story. See, I'm trying very, very hard during this Sunday Fun Day today to bring you positive stories that don't make you sad. Here is one from BBC News from 17 hours ago, where these underwater kites are generating electricity as they move.
What? It's science.
Rugged and remote, the Faroe Islands are an isolated archipelago found in the North Atlantic. Powerful currents flow around its 18 islands. And in this sea channel, called the Vestmannaeyjum, mechanical creatures lurk beneath the water's surface, called dragons. Designed by Swedish marine energy firm Minesto, it's among a wave of new technology that hopes to revolutionise tidal power.
This huge yellow thing behind me is a tidal kite. It looks
BBC with the
a bit
beats.
like a glider because it's designed to fly through the water. And once it's installed on the seabed, it will be generating electricity using the current that flows through this stretch of water.
Weighing 28 tonnes and with a 12-metre wingspan, the newest Dragon can deliver 1.2 megawatts of power.
It's sort of like kite surfing, but on the water. So we tether it off to the seafloor, foundation on the seafloor, and then it flies in a figure of 8.
Where are all the dragons right now? We have a verified dragon vid, and there's only one dragon in chat. My God, missed opportunity.
Currents flow by, the kite's wings generate a hydrodynamic lift force, spinning the turbine and generating electricity.
This design's very different to other types of tidal technology. So what's the advantage of a design like this one?
We can install and operate and produce power in low flow currents with lightweight machines. Although it looks big to the eye, this is actually a very small tidal turbine.
Oh, sorry. Two dragons. I see you. I see you, Sticks.
Designed the system as such to be maintenance friendly, and that you simply just tow them in, replace modules, and then put them back in. We've also, over the years, removed more and more components from the system and fit them on shore instead. The less components you have that could become damaged, it's easier to access it, and it's much cheaper also.
It's the gravitational pull of the moon, and to some extent the sun, which gives the tides their rhythm. And unlike wind, solar or hydro, tidal power isn't reliant on weather. While tidal barrages have been around for decades, their cost and the ecological impact has been a barrier. Now, from the Scottish Islands through to Canada, a new generation of tech firms have introduced tidal stream turbines.
Ocean energy is still largely untapped, so what are the barriers that have prevented it from taking off?
It's a relatively small and new industry, so very few machines in the water, and then you have to compete with wind farms and solar PV, etc. We're now addressing a resource that's so much larger, so we're opening up a market that didn't even exist before.
Yeah, I just think this is super cool. I love hearing that it isn't dependent on weather, because that is one thing that has, you know, kind of held back some arguments for renewables in some cases, at least in some areas where it's less effective. Being able to do this regardless of whether it's a sunny or a windy day is huge, and the fact that it's not as detrimental to the marine life and the ecosystem as say what are they called again, the tidal barges, which are basically just dams, and they do definitely cause problems with you know, migration of fish and other things like that, sort of cutting off certain parts of the ecosystem from the rest of the environment, causing definite ecological sort of downstream effects that you could definitely call negative. I like this as a solution, honestly, and so yeah, I'm sure that it probably isn't perfect, but as long as it's preferable to some of the stuff we're currently doing, it just in my mind, a step in the right direction, I guess you might say, if we can stop doing one thing and do another thing that's not as bad, but as beneficial, then I say we do that. Let's do this. Staying in the UK. This is from 8 hours ago. I wasn't sure where to put this, honestly, because it's kind of a combination of multiple things here, but passengers were stranded in Manchester Airport after power cut, grounded flights. Come on. Work with me. Computer, be my friend. Oh, how dare you.
Been advised this morning not to travel to Manchester Airport, but we thought we'd chance it, as our flight's not until 6:30 tea time. You know, fingers crossed. You've got to make the best of a bad situation. It's not the airline's fault. It's not the Manchester Airport's fault. It's no one's fault. It's just one of them freaky things that happen.
Bags everywhere. There's absolutely thousands. You can't get a seat. It's
one of those freaky things that happens when it gets incredibly hot. Because the problem is that it was really hot and the grid was over. What's the word? It was being overdrawn, and so they shut down power. We've seen this in multiple places in Europe so far in the last week. Most of it had been in the Balkan area, but yeah, same thing happened here in Manchester, essentially, and stranded people at the airport. They were unable to get on their flights and were left to fend for themselves. Some of them, I assume, not from England, hoping to go back to a different country. Just kind of left there. But these are the sorts of things we can kind of expect to be happening, you know, for multiple reasons, but all, you know, kind of tied to climate change and the way that we're dealing with it. Now, let's go further east here into Europe, where in Switzerland, they were hit by floods as... Now, we talked about this yesterday, but there has been some developments in this, and it seems at least one person has died, and multiple are still missing.
Persistent rainfall, melting snow, and saturated ground have caused significant flooding in Switzerland's Valais canton. Authorities are closely monitoring the Rhone River and its tributaries, which are at risk of overflowing, posing further flood and landslide threats. Swiss federal authorities have elevated danger levels to the second highest, urging people to avoid watercourses, bridges, and travel near affected areas. The tourist hub of Zermatt, near the Matterhorn mountain, faced major disruptions as the Metavispa River overflowed, isolating the village and closing schools since midday Friday.
Yeesh, that is fucking scary. I don't know about you, but if I was, I don't know, living above this restaurant here, or I don't know, working in this restaurant, I would be really concerned about this water that is basically just just inches away from getting over that fucking concrete embankment there. Good God. And you would have good reason to worry, because this next story is about how at least one person has been found dead.
The body of one of 3 people that went missing in Switzerland due to extreme weather has been found, rescue services announced. Massive thunderstorms and rainfall battered the country's southeast over the weekend, causing a rock slide in the Alpine Valley in Graubünden. Authorities say there is a low chance the remaining 2 individuals that went missing in the rock slide will be found alive. Over 200 rescuers with excavators, search dogs, army helicopters and drones were involved in the search.
I do hope they find those people. LT 9K off to bed. Alright, yeah, you get some good sleep over there. Okay, got a few more stories here to talk about before we take a break. First, let's look at this in Africa, where this Nigerian town is slowly disappearing under the Atlantic Ocean. No, this one. Thank you. Go web go.
Ayetoro was like a paradise, a city where everyone lived joyfully, happily. More than 2/3 of Ayetoro has been cleaned by this sea erosion.
Did you say 2/3?
Most of our children now cannot go to school. If you want to go to church now, we pass through hell before going there because of this sea problem.
Virtually underwater.
Oh, God. You know, it's...
This is the third house.
It's these
we are
small
living
communities along
the electricity
the coast.
is already gone. We could not use electric fan.
You know, these small communities along the coast that are, you know, filled with people that never asked more from the environment than they should have. And they're the ones who are being subjected to this stuff that's essentially being done by people not like them. Right? Not, you know, Nigeria isn't the reason the environment is collapsing, right? Like, now, Nigeria does have an oil industry to some degree, but it's, you know, if you were to compare it to, you know, and then let's also remember that the West has been kind of heavily involved in the creation of that industry to some degree as well, and you know, it's just so devastating to watch this happen in front of us, talking about it over and over again as if, I don't know, as if there's like nothing to be done to fix it. We hear so much sort of like acceptance of this as like the new normal from some outlets, and it's like, no, we gotta stop accepting this. This is unacceptable. This is an unacceptable normal. We must change course.
Is 853 kilometers, but it's really amazing that we don't have a single tide gauge along the Nigerian coast.
Yeah, and Nigeria is one of those west coast of Africa countries that have really seen the negative effects of colonialism firsthand and have not benefited at all from capitalism, really. And this is just, it's so fucking depressing to look at. Okay. Okay. They don't have a single what? Oh, a tide barrier. He's talking about things that are, that in a lot of Western countries we have built in the sort of lead up to all of this. For instance, like in Venice, right? Or in trying to think of other good examples. I think San Francisco might have one, as well as Houston. They're in places. I'm trying to think of exact examples. I'm struggling with that, but they're basically walls meant to keep back the tides as they rise. They can't pay for Dutch engineers to help them. I'm trying to think. I think, in fact, it should be. Is it the French? I think it's the French who owe Nigeria some walls. Not the Dutch. I can't remember right now. I have like a map in my head of just a vague map of the different countries that have been touched by different Western powers. I think Nigeria is the French. Almost positive. Actually, maybe it was the British. Was it the British? Ah, God, I can't do it. Let's move on. Maybe the French and the British can both get in on that one. It is England. Thank you, Choki. See, that's what I thought. That's why, I was like, I want to say French, but no. Thank you. Okay, now let's go north a little bit here to Saudi Arabia. Somebody mentioned it in chat earlier, and we actually have been discussing this situation as it has been developing. But I believe the Hajj pilgrimage is now officially done, but it has left 1,300 people dead in the extreme heat which had ravaged the area during the week. 1,300 fucking people. This is...
Saudi Arabia announced extreme heat made this year's Hajj pilgrimage a deadly one for more than 1,300 people. The pilgrimage ended last week. Temperatures to Mecca and other holy sites soared above 124 degrees.
That was the fastest story I've ever seen. Oh my God. Okay, I guess we'll go straight to China.
China's National Observatory has warned of more torrential rain in southern China, rain that has already claimed...
Sorry, we can't do it that fast. That is just wrong. I am offended by how quickly they did that. I did not notice that in my first watching of this, probably because I've just been thinking about this like all week. So in my head, it lasted longer. I also watched it on 2X, so I might have just completely missed it entirely. But let's talk about that for a second, because that number is horrific, okay? I don't know in what other situation we would accept these sorts of numbers in terms of human tragedy, but I just find it just abhorrent this happened. Like, I don't understand. Like, I get it. I get that you take your religion super seriously, but don't die. Don't die for it, Don't do that. And I'm sorry if that doesn't feel good to you, but it doesn't feel good to me to watch 1,300 people fucking die just to walk around a block. This is not intended to be in any way, anti-Muslim. I'm just anti-religion, and especially when it causes people to die. Like, if you were to ask me, what sorts of things religion should be involved in, it shouldn't be involved in people dying. I know that wouldn't be on the list, but it is in fact on the list time and time again. This one just seems so incredibly preventable. I find it very frustrating. You're all for letting people practice their religion, but you feel like it's perfectly reasonable to put restrictions on things like this. That's kind of where I was going with it as well. Although I just feel like people should be capable of putting restrictions on themselves in this case. But the fact is, the reason watching it now is because this wouldn't be happening to this degree if climate change wasn't in full swing, because these deaths have been climbing in the recent years with these Hajj pilgrimages as Saudi Arabia's temperatures have been increasing more and more. They've introduced a whole bunch of different measures to attempt to cut down on some of the deaths, like with, I think I've seen like big automated umbrellas and like mist machines and all sorts of stuff like that. Like what? Like I think they have stuff like what was that called earlier? The Mach 4 or something or other. I don't know if that's exactly what they're using, but they have implemented a bunch of stuff, but they're not in any way keeping people from doing the pilgrimage itself, and it's incredibly arduous. And you have old people, in some cases, going and doing this, and I would just urge people to practice their religions with slightly less fervor than what would cause you to die or other people to die. You feel like I'm guilt tripping people? I'm not trying to do it. It just makes me really sad. It makes me really, really, really sad. Oh wait, are we talking about something else? I think we might be talking about something. Okay, let's go to this from 14 hours ago here in China, because according to this from DW News, dozens of people have died in recent floods in China with extremely heavy rain, which was unexpected. There's been a bunch of this sort of unexpected rain causing just wild flooding. No, your husband was guilt tripping. Yeah, I saw that. Something about cats. How expensive they are. Let's not guilt trip on cats. They are, cats are great. Let's be real. Eastern China. I can't actually say. I think it might not be. I could be wrong. I think it's in the south.
China's National Observatory has warned of more torrential rain in southern China, rain that has already claimed scores of lives. Downpours have caused landslides and floods in the past week that destroyed homes, infrastructure and crops. Relief and flood control personnel have been working to help trapped residents. Officials in Guilin called it the worst flooding since 1998. Now let's bring in DW correspondent James Chater from Taipei. James, the flooding has been described as a once-in-a-century event. Can you tell us more about the scale of it?
Yeah, well, simply put, more extreme weather is making these types of events more difficult for the authorities in China to manage. What we've seen over the past week really is many provinces across southern China being impacted by earlier than expected heavy rain. We also can expect in Meizhou there's a potential that the death toll could rise there. This is a city in Guangdong province that has seen the majority of deaths, and there are concerns that in that.
Just gonna go back to, where is it?
That the death toll could.
This is something that's actually a huge aspect of why flooding happens. Clogged drains. I know it doesn't make sense, or maybe probably does make sense, but like these drains are a huge portion of how cities deal with excess water, and when stuff gets stuck on it, they stop draining, and then really bad things start happening.
This is a city in Guangdong province that has seen the majority of deaths, and there are concerns that in that province, or in the province of Guangdong, there are still people that are missing, predominantly in more remote areas. This is, again, as I explained, double the amount of annual rainfall we've had since April on the previous period of time last year, and hundreds of thousands of people across those southern provinces of China have been impacted by this weather event.
Yep. Seems like every single week we just kind of rotate places where horrible weather events, often easily linkable to climate change, happen. God. But we must continue on and try to figure out some solutions to all this shit while we still have time. What was I saying? Oh, right. Well, because of the timing of everything, we still have one more environmental story, but we're going to do it in the second half. Well, I hope everybody has been enjoying the stream so far. If you haven't already, make sure to like and also subscribe. They really help me out. In fact, the subscriptions are super important because I still need to get to 500 subscribers just to get this darn YouTube channel monetized. That's right. YouTube still refuses to pay me for my work, which clearly at least some people enjoy. Well, if you'd like to help support the stream even more, like some incredible people before you, well, you got one really good option. Wait, whoa, what are you doing? Hold on. Oh my god. Getting sidetracked by my damn web browser. Okay, what was I saying? Ah, yes, you can go here to this link in chat and become a Galactic patron, where sweet, sweet space benefits await you, unseen by the rest of the goddamn Milky Way galaxy. But if for some reason you don't want to be able to put sweet pics or GIFs on scenes like you see before you right now, or get shout-outs at the end of the show, or access to exclusive Galactic content, or secret Discord channel, if none of that seems good to you and you'd rather have not that, well, you could also subscribe on Twitch, where I am in fact monetized, and Jeffy Bezos has allowed me to make tiny amounts of money from that platform, where you can do the normal Twitchy things, like getting access to nearly 30 emotes as a subscriber, among other things. Alright, chat. Galactic intermission, so grab yourself a drink, perhaps a snack, and I'll be right back.
Do you know what we're here for? The equal parts. Oh my gosh.
By the way, I was just talking about Patreon a second ago. I just wanted to say something. Somebody yesterday decided to become a new Galactic producer. However, I tried messaging them on the app. They haven't yet responded, so I haven't been able to put their name onto the new onto a new Patreon animation. So if you are that person, try and get back to me with the name you want to use. Otherwise, I'm going to continue to go anonymous.
Right now.
The equal parts. Oh my gosh. Thanks, Jeff, for the question. You should be ashamed of yourself for having that thought.
Don't be creepy. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I don't know if anybody noticed, but there's a new, well, I can't say person, but there is a new individual at the bar. That is this sweet, sweet kitty, which Omega Star has added as their new addition. Oh, also, I almost forgot. We have Mrs. Jen in the pool, too. Hanging out here with her cats and her coffee mug and a book. Seems to be enjoying the pool along with the rest of us. The water is nice. Oh, Badash going to bed. Good seeing you. Carl. Is Carl one of your cats? Ooh. I'm seeing a lot of Gary's dancing in the Twitch chat right now. Yes, your cat is very famous right now. It's true. It's true facts. Space history with yours truly. You know what's still being underutilized? The first, second, third. People are very good about getting first, second, third in the chat, but nobody is redeeming the first, second, thirds on Twitch. Alright, now we still have one more video to talk about here with our discussion of environmental stuff. Whoopsies, I just opened one too many windows. Oh! Wait, someone just did third? Instead of first? Why would you do third first? And you did second? Why did neither of you take first? I don't understand. Did somebody do first and I didn't see it happen? I'm just so confused. Nobody wants to be first, and it's strange. It's confusing me. Okay, okay. Third and second, though. Who took third? Omega? And, oh! Now Omega took... Oh, well done. Got first. I need to make that bigger. I can't read it. It's too small. I need to make it bigger.
Phrasing?
Alright, I gotta change the title. I've been trying to do this lately. Just been trying to change the titles on break now. I will take a break and drink. Thank you for the hydrate. Who's that? Princess Mo? Princess Mo with the hydrate. Alright. Now, let's go to this story to sort of cap us off on... I felt this was the perfect story to do as sort of a segue back to talking about global news. This is from Al Jazeera English from 3 days ago. According to them, militaries are fueling the climate crisis. I wonder which military is fueling it the most.
I don't want reality.
Whoa, 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 I just went too far. I was already on the video. Go back. There we go.
Right now, a quarter of the world's population, 2 billion people, are living in countries at war. In fact, according to the United Nations, 2023 saw the highest number of active violent conflicts since World War II.
Yeah.
And according to those tracking military emissions...
Yeah, that statistic is definitely real. We've looked at that. We've talked about that recently. And it's very disturbing. 2024 seems to be off to a similar sort of start.
Armies across the globe were a country, they'd be the 4th largest emitter of carbon on Earth. The impact of war, however, is so much more than just emissions from tanks, ships and warplanes. Modern warfare has a devastating effect on people and the planet. So what is the scale of destruction wrought by militaries? And in an age where nations justify war on the basis of supposed security benefits, isn't the harm to the Earth not also a huge threat to our collective security?
With every report that comes out on the state of the climate, there's a slew of emission stats. Industry spewing more, countries committing to emit less. Understanding emissions can help us work out what needs to change, but there's a big hole in the information we have. Military emissions. These are often poorly tracked and even more poorly reported. And what's worse is...
And one thing that I can't remember if they discussed in this or not, but one thing I thought about was, are they even tracking what the emissions are for the rebuilding of things that are getting destroyed? Because that would seem to be a huge cause of emissions too, you know? I can't remember exactly what percentage it is. I think it's like 6% of global emissions are the creation of concrete. So... You know, and I just wonder, it's like, okay, how much will it, in terms of, we've actually talked about it before, although it feels less important than what's happening immediately in Gaza, for sure. But the fact is I mean, the rebuilding of Gaza is going to require an incredible amount of emissions, probably, almost definitely.
Often a country's most significant emitters.
That's just one example, right? We go down the list.
There's one military in particular, the biggest in fact, with an $816 billion budget in 2023 that leads the pack with emissions. The US Armed Forces. The government body overseeing their operations is the US Department of Defense.
The Department of Defense's annual emissions is as large as the emissions of many countries. So it's as large as Portugal or Sweden.
In 2023, I spoke with Netta Crawford, co-director of Brown University's Costs of War project. In 2019, her team uncovered a startling fact. The US Department of Defense has a larger annual carbon footprint than most countries on Earth.
Good God.
To say that US military...
Let's listen to that fact again, because that is fucking wild. This is ridiculous. How is this true?
Uncovered a startling fact. The US Department of Defense has a larger annual carbon footprint than most countries on Earth.
The United States Department of Defense has a larger carbon footprint than most countries on Earth. Not America, not all of the people, but just the Department of Defense.
To say that U.S. military emissions are 52 million metric tons annually is to say the United States is the single largest energy user, and the U.S. military is therefore the single largest carbon emitter, looking at it as an institution. 30% of those emissions are from bases across the world, and 70% are from operations.
If you calculate the US military emissions, it's more than many, many other countries. So it really is the elephant in the room that has been ignored so far.
That's Nick Buxton, author and researcher with the Amsterdam-based Transnational Institute.
There was just a report showing that military spending globally has reached 2.1 trillion now. And the war in Ukraine and now in Gaza has kind of given that an extra boost. And every time military spending increases, military emissions increases.
Off to bed, Mrs. Jen. It was good seeing you. It's good seeing you. I hope you get some sleep. I know we do these shows late. It is late night space radio, after all. Yeah, this is very frustrating to me. All these numbers frustrate me. I mean, think about that last number we just heard. Out of $2 trillion in military spending in the world, United States is basically half of that at $13 billion. That's not counting appropriations or anything else.
Getting clarity on emissions is a challenge. There are very few industries that see any upside in tracking the carbon that they're putting out into the atmosphere. That reluctance seems multiplied many times over when it comes to militaries. Getting accurate emission figures from them has proven largely futile. In 2022, a group called the Scientists for Global Responsibility estimated that altogether, militaries and their supporting industries account for up to 6% of global emissions. That's more than civil aviation and shipping combined.
Why do you think this massive source of emissions is so often ignored? Is this deliberate or some kind of oversight?
Let's be
real. I think the reason why military emissions is really ignored or underplayed was at first really deliberate. When the Kyoto Protocol was signed and agreed in the mid-90s, the military carved out an exemption that they wouldn't be included. That was something pushed through by the Pentagon, and the US didn't sign the agreement in the end, but it remained on the books.
So the United States didn't even sign on to the agreement, but the amendment that would completely just look the other way on the emissions of the defense quote-unquote industry, the military-industrial complex, stayed there. Wild. It's wild. United States has too much of an effect in the world. Really, it doesn't seem like we're doing net positive most days.
In 1997 was very clear that they didn't want to have their operations curtailed and therefore didn't want military emissions included. The second reason is there's vast amounts of military emissions or war-related emissions that we can't really, at this point, count. The cost of war calculations do not include the emissions from blowing things up, from burning them. That's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
At the core of the costs of war projects calculations is fuel.
Makes
The
sense.
US Armed Forces requires a lot of it. We're talking more than 85 million barrels for operations alone in 2017. Keeping track of how many vehicles have gone to and fro, for how long, how many times they've had to refill, that's the real nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah, and as we know, pretty much every single machine that carries people in the military is run by gas or diesel. It's good to wake up to. I'm glad. I'm glad that it can be enjoyed across the globe, no matter what time it may be. It does appear most of my audience is in the United States and Canada, but I know there's some of you out there in the UK. Although I don't believe the YouTube is allowed to give me your data.
Militaries need a way to get around. They require fuel. A great power like the United States, which sees itself as preeminent and wanting to prevail in every conflict, desires access to fuel everywhere, all the time. So the United States has bases in about 38 countries, and fuel is supplied from those places or is taken to those places and protected so that the United States can operate.
I think I calculated once that one jet in an hour uses what an average car driver would use in 7 years in terms of gas. So these jets, Hummers, tanks, they're all very high.
Wow, an hour of flying an F-16 equals 7 years of the average car's driving? That is insane. How many miles does the average car drive? I think it's a lot. What is it? It's got to be like over 5,000 miles at least. I think it's higher than that. That is insane. What is that? So just assume it's 5,000, but I think it's higher. It's like 35,000 miles one car for an hour of a fucking jet? Oh my god. I had no idea that it was that bad. I should have known. Like, it makes sense now that I'm thinking about it, but it just wasn't intuitive to me. Jesus Christ.
Fuel use vehicles. And then you've got a very large military footprint. The US has around 800 military bases around the world. So each of those has to be supplied, be resourced, and it supports a whole global machine which has a very high carbon impact.
But of course, the military's impact on the environment doesn't stop with emissions. Military forces and wars have left a largely devastating environmental legacy around the world.
Okay, hold on. We can't watch this whole thing because it's like 30 minutes long. You drive 130,000 miles a year? Well, that's because you drive professionally. I don't think that's representative of everyone, but it is certainly a lot of miles. Fuck, where do we go? This thing is just so chock full of information. I almost want to watch the whole fucking thing.
40s and the 50s, as well as in Indian reservations, creating a lot of health impacts. The second thing is there's also the impact of open air pits in countries such as Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Pakistan. A third dimension is the water contamination because of the spilled.
Now, the open air pits you've probably heard of because, I mean, Jon Stewart went really hard on that in relation to the effect it had on soldiers who were involved in these burnings getting cancer.
In groundwater, polluting drinking and water for agricultural purposes.
The situation is clearly unsustainable. In November 2022, the United Nations formally adopted principles to protect the environment amidst armed conflicts. And if you look at NEDA's data, the US military's emissions, whatever bits of it can be measured, have been on an overall decline since 1975. This is mostly due to a reduction in the number of bases and the move away from coal power to renewables and nuclear. All of this had started to happen even before February 2022, when the US Army announced its first climate strategy. Amongst its priorities, installing independent power grids on bases to improve self-sufficiency and to use more renewable energy sources. Also, a plan to have a fleet of electric non-combat vehicles by 2035.
There is, of course, this new push for reducing fuel consumption and emissions, as well as to transition to more efficient vehicles. This will make a difference. I think it's important. But even if they accelerated the transition to renewables, the real savings is in operations. So then you have to ask, is the United States operating in places where it needs to be operating? Does it have bases where it needs to have bases? Or
seriously, because these bases have definitely a lot of emissions, and this it's wild to me to be thinking about how the military is trying to green up themselves, if you will, but the best way to do it would just be to stop doing the things that they're doing. Maybe focus some of those hundreds of billions of dollars on, I don't know, healthcare and education, fixing the climate that they've been destroying. Be my top 3, I think. I got more. I got a long list, but I think we'd start there. God. We watch more of this. We move on. Let's just watch this last piece of it here.
The securitization of the climate crisis has served to expand and strengthen the corporate military-industrial complex and its profits.
The interlocking interests of the corporate world with those of national militaries and the defence industries that equip them has meant that they are all invested in expanding the scope of their operations.
Arms firms, they are diversifying and providing drones, the radars, the military systems for arming borders. Then on top of that, you have all the IT firms like IBM or Unisys who providing all the infrastructure for the kind of biometric testing. You have air companies who are providing the services for deporting people. And then you have the whole advisory and consultancy services like PricewaterhouseCoopers or Anderson Consulting, who provide the consultancy and advisory services about the sorts of policies that we need to deal with borders.
Can you give me an example of any of the practical links between the military world and the corporate world?
We've been looking at border industry in particular, and we found that the same security firms that protect oil firms, so are contracted, for example, in Nigeria by the likes of Shell or Exxon, are also providing border security services. They're also financed often by the same companies. Now, Vanguard and BlackRock are both financing the military firms and other major corporations as well. You'll find key military figures on the boards of oil companies and vice versa. So there's a lot of interlocks.
Some of the world's biggest emitters of greenhouse gases are spending much more on arming their borders than they are on climate finance.
Between 2013 and 2018, 7 countries, responsible for 48% of the world's historic greenhouse gas emissions, collectively spent at least twice as much on border and immigration enforcement, more than $33.1
Wow. It's very interesting. Because, I mean, look at the countries here that are spending the most on border and immigration. They're all former or, well, it's either Britain itself or their former colonies, being Canada and United States and Australia. It's weird.
billion
Oh, don't forget
compared to
Japan.
what they spent on climate finance, which was $14.4 billion.
The funding for all this militarisation seems like a feat of magic. National budgets are stretched thin. Healthcare, education, sustainable, less climate-harming...
How do they think about it? They also tried to colonize Japan back in the day, too. It just didn't go super good.
alternatives to the status quo need serious funding. But very few nations set aside money for these matters in the way that they do for militaries.
Frontex, for example, the European Border Security Agency's funding has increased over the last 15 years by more than 2,700%. In the US, we've had at least more than doubled, possibly tripled since the 2000s. Of course, there's different reasons for it, but one of the articulated reasons is that we need to prepare for dealing with climate change. So we could be investing, for example, in supporting people who are forced to leave their placement to finding a dignified life in their countries.
Yeah, and another thing that we haven't been, in fact talking about, but they're not talking about here, is that refugees, climate refugees, aren't even. There is no legal definition under the what is it? The UN. Oh God, I can't remember which agency. But under the normal sort of people that deal with these kinds of refugee things. I don't know why I can't think of the name of the agency. I'm pretty sure it's under the UN Charter. But there is no legal definition for climate refugees because it's a pretty new phenomenon within the last 10, 15-ish years when things have really started to get dramatically worse with this. But there needs to be. There definitely needs to be some legal definitions and counting on this, because at least as I understand it for now, if you're a climate refugee, you're just a regular refugee. There's no, there's no separate distinction for you. And I think it would be kind of good for all of us to know some of these statistics. But the fact is many of climate refugees, at least up until more recently, have been internally displaced, but there is a lot of people in Southeast Asia whose entire countries are being wiped under the water and have nowhere else to go, aside from a different place, a different country. Okay, now let's talk about space news real quick before we get to the rest of the global news. This is from a day ago. If you missed this, well, you get a second chance. This is from CBS Evening News from a day ago, where, perhaps shockingly to some, but most likely not to those watching this stream, a little company called Boeing has somehow bungled this space launch. Well, not the launch. They did the launch, but now they can't get the people back from space to Earth. And, well, because that's what happens when you get Boeing to do space stuff.
NASA has pushed back the return of Boeing's first crewed mission to the International Space Station again. The Starliner's mission was planned to last 9 days, but as Mark Strassman reports, NASA now says the crew won't be back before July.
Ignition and liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V.
Starliner's launch 2 weeks ago was picture perfect, but just hours into the test flight, a problem.
Looks like we picked up a couple more helium leaks.
All right, we're ready to copy and find out exactly what you mean by picked up another helium leak.
The Vendetta spacecraft had launched with...
I love the vibe of that astronaut in that moment. Copy. I'm not sure what you mean by a leak. Like, he genuinely sounds distressed.
Find out exactly what you mean by picked up another helium leak.
The Boeing-built spacecraft had launched with one small helium leak. Now it has 5. Starliner also lost 5 small maneuvering engines on its final approach to the space station. All but 1 were recovered, but the glitches convinced NASA to delay Starliner's return to Earth.
We want to give our teams a little bit more time to look at the data, do some analysis, and make sure we're really ready to come home.
CBS News space analyst Bill Harwood.
They're cleared to come home in an emergency. If they really need to leave right now, they could. It's not like they're stranded on the space station, but NASA just wants to get as much information as they can.
They could definitely come back in the leaky spaceship. Nothing wrong with that. I hear it's no problem when you're re-entering the atmosphere at incredible speeds, under incredible pressure and temperatures. NBD. So yeah, the Boeing / NASA astronauts are now, well, they're stuck at the International Space Station. Thanks to Boeing's incredible engineering, of course. As they've decided profits are more important than people. And having good stuff. Okay, now this is the last of the space news. It's from 3 hours ago from the Associated Press, where urban artists in Peru are unveiling a mural in honor of the 25th anniversary of Star Wars Episode 1.
Escogimos este lugar porque era un
We
baño
chose this place
público.
because it was a public
El
restroom.
día de hoy ha sido un
Today, it's
espacio
one
más
more space
rescatado por
rescued by
nosotros.
us.
Como
Urban
ve, ya no
Revere.
se
As you see,
respira el
no
olor que
longer
usted
breathe
sentía
the
ni
smell,
siquiera
bad
pasando esta
smell,
cuadra,
but
sino
not
a las
what?
calles aledañas.
That's not making sense.
Esto lo
We do
hacemos
this
también
also
como
as a
una
showcase
vitrina
for
para que
artists
los
to
artistas
demonstrate
puedan
that they are
demostrar de qué están hechos.
what they are made of.
Sí, este mural es fantástico para todos los
Yes, this
fanáticos
mural
de
is
Star Wars.
fantastic
Es
for
muy
all Star Wars
impresionante cómo
fans.
es el
The art
arte
in our
acá en,
city, Lima,
en la
is
ciudad
very
limeña.
impressive.
Muestra el
It
gran
shows the
interés
great
por esta gran
interest in this
saga
great
que a
saga,
muchos
which
nos
many of
ha
us have
encantado
loved
y nos
and
seguirá
will
gustando.
continue to love. Okay, now I know some of you are saying Star Wars Episode 1 is not the best Star Wars. I'm not going to start that debate right now. But it was space news, okay? I'm just trying to keep things light today. Sunday fun day. Okay, what's next? Yes, this. This is from 2 hours ago. Also from the Associated Press, where Brazilian women staged a protest against a bill that would further restrict abortion rights. We talked about this bill recently. I still don't understand quite enough about this to be able to give a ton of context on how this happened. I think the last time we talked about this, I was like, where is Michael Brooks when we need him? He was our man on Brazil. And yeah, so let's look at this, because the Brazilian Congress has been going over a bill which would restrict women's access, people able to be pregnant. It would keep them from being able to get any abortion services after 22 weeks, which is really close to, you know, the 16-week ban that we have in the United States. And, well, people in Brazil are pretty upset about this. In the thumbnail, it's 3 women wearing what appears to be Handmaid's Tale outfits. It's the vibe of all of this, I would say. So there are mobilizations across the country saying children are not mothers and babies are not fathers. Why? Because this bill equates abortion after 22 weeks of pregnancy with the crime of homicide. Abortion is legal in situations of rape and sexual violence, and the majority of those who access the rights are girls. But yeah, it does. She's right. It does, in fact, equate abortion with murder after 22 weeks, which is just utterly ridiculous. It's a fetus. We are here to show the world that our uterus belongs to us. Our body is ours. Our state is secular. Our country does not have to interfere with women's bodies. Well, it's good to see them out there fighting for their rights. I wish they didn't have to be. They shouldn't have to be, but they, in fact, are. Okay, let's look at this. Where some more people are in the streets for something they shouldn't have to be, but also are. This is from the Associated Press from 9 hours ago, where rainbow flags fly as the LGBTQ plus community of Ecuador marches for equal rights.
Las personas LGBTIQ+, no somos enfermas, nunca hemos estado enfermas y es por eso que decimos que no hay nada que curar, que es el nombre que le hemos puesto a esta conmemoración.
That is the name we have given to this commemoration of LGBTQ plus pride in the city of Quito. Right-wing attacks on women spreading? Yeah. We march to demand from the state this debt it owes us. Pending debt to create inclusive policies that ensure our rights. And above all, we march to shout to the world that we have nothing to cure, that we are people like any other. Absolutely. Absolutely. Isn't Ecuador having a lefty president? Yeah, and so does Brazil.
As Pride
That's
Month
what's crazy.
continues across Europe, 10,000 people have
We
taken
got
part in
Lula.
a colourful parade.
Lula is still the president of Brazil. It is one of these things that confounds me. But once again, it's a democracy, and they have more representation than just a president. It's not a dictatorship, technically, in either Ecuador or Brazil. So... You know, I don't think we can necessarily go and immediately blame the president. It's why I wish we had Michael Brooks so that maybe he could tell us what's happening. I should just do more research, but been a little bit, you know, busy. But, you know, I'm trying my best here to at least illuminate these issues to some degree, to my best ability. All right. Now let's go to Europe, where over 10,000 people in Poland participated in a pride parade in Warsaw.
As Pride Month continues across Europe, 10,000 people have taken part in a colourful parade in Warsaw. Traditionally a protest event, participants voiced their demands, which included the extension of anti-hate speech law to fully protect the LGBTQ+ community, marriage and civil union as a right of every citizen, and safeguarding the rights of children raised in same-sex relationships. Poland also joined a diplomatic declaration, alongside 35 embassies and several cultural institutes in Budapest, against politically motivated targeting of members of the LGBTQ+ community. It comes as Budapest held its Pride Parade in the city centre for the 29th time.
Okay. Now, let's what is this? What's next? Okay. Now on to what's been happening in Ukraine as Russia has continued to increase its attacks on civilian center in Kharkiv, which is the second largest city. And Yeah, things aren't going well for the civilians here, as at least 3 people have died and 30 have been injured in the most recent attacks. A Russian bomb attack has killed at least 3 people on Saturday in Kharkiv, Ukraine. At least 29 were injured, according to local Ukrainian officials. Reporter, are you wounded? My head is a bit in the hand. You look injured, buddy. I stopped at the traffic light. There were 2 hits and everything started falling after the 3rd one. Kharkiv Mayor Ihor Terekov said that there had been 4 strikes. This is one more terrorist attack, precise attack on civilian infrastructure. There's nothing of military interest in this district. Oh, Jesus Christ. Kharkiv lies about 30 kilometers from the border shared with Russia and is frequently targeted by Russia. It certainly has been recently. Certainly has been. Yeah, I heard about that, Jerry. Russia has started using old-timey bombs from World War II. I think did we talk about that on stream? I can't even remember now. Can't even remember. We talk about so much stuff here. But I know I saw that, I saw a video on that. Let's look at this story, because it's been a year since this happened, and I'm kind of shocked because it feels like it has not been even close to that. But a year ago, Russian mercenary chief, the head of the Wagner group, Prigozhin, I can't remember his first name, challenged the Kremlin with a mutiny and was then immediately killed in a helicopter crash, which most people, or many people, believe to have been not accidental at all. All of those who deliberately embarked on the path, who prepared an armed rebellion and embarked on the path of blackmail and terrorist methods, will suffer inevitable punishment and will answer both to the law and to our people.
Wagner itself, is not playing the role on the front lines that it used to. I think it would be very surprising if it would. That said, we are still seeing it do other things, particularly remaining involved in conflicts in sub-Saharan Africa, in the Sahel, to a certain extent in South America. Despite the spectacular demise of Prigozhin himself and the problems that Wagner got itself into as a result of that, the model, right, the idea of a private company profiting from this war, right, is one that is attractive to a lot of people in Russia. We have not seen kind of the loss of confidence in the Kremlin that we might have expected to see from among sort of the Russian elite and sort of the rich and powerful men, mostly around Putin. Which might in fact signal that the Kremlin is stronger than we think, right? That it can afford a certain amount of chaos and dysfunction, and yet the core holds solid.
Yeah. Even with things like assassinating your sort of, what do you call it? Your main mercenary group, I guess. Vatican orgies. What are we talking about? How do we get to Vatican orgies? What were we talking about that led us to that? I am very confused. Glad to see Omegastar using all of your emotes that you get multiple people in here trying to utilize all of their sweet, sweet Twitch emotes that they get as subscribers. Okay. What's next? We started with Catholic influence in Latin America and got to Vatican orgies. Okay, now I see the line. I see how it got from one to the other. That makes sense, at least. Thank you for helping me with that. Okay, let's look at this. This is practically breaking news. This came out 4 hours ago. And I shouldn't be laughing. This is not funny. Where a synagogue was attacked in southern Russia by militants. Yeah, this is CNN from 4 hours ago.
We have breaking news out of Russia. A series of attacks at houses of worship in the southern region of Dagestan. A synagogue was set on fire, and at least one priest was killed at a nearby Catholic church. Authorities say a group of militants armed with automatic weapons coordinated the attacks in the city of Derbent. Meanwhile, police just north of there were involved in a shootout after an attack on a traffic post. Authorities have now launched a terror investigation. CNN's Claire Sebastian is tracking the latest for us from London. So, Claire, what is the latest on all of this?
Yeah, Alison, so authorities are saying that they believe these attacks in two different cities, Makhachkala and Derbent, they're about 80 miles apart, are coordinated. They are, as you say, now investigating these attacks under the terrorism article of the Russian Criminal Code. The key target seems to have been religious sites. Russian official sources are talking about a synagogue and a church in the city of...
Yeah. People need to stop popping off on one another with with all of this violent bullshit. It's out of control. Now, one thing I thought of while I was watching this, which is maybe calloused, but you know, Vladimir Putin was making the claims that he was invading Ukraine to end Nazism, but with synagogue attacks happening in his own country, he might want to deal with that first. But yeah, that's a deeply cynical thing to think. Everybody, forget that. Cut that. Okay, let's go on to this. We're going to start talking about the Middle East here. We'll start with this from CBS Evening News. Oh, good. I'm sure this is going to be deep, just very unbiased. I'm sure they did a really good job on this. Tensions are growing between the White House and Israel. It's actually shocking that they even have a story somehow alluding to that fact right now. Or, I don't know about fact. Is it true? I don't know. Hard to say. What are you doing? Play. What's happening? What the fuck? Oh, no. Hold on. I know exactly what's happening. I know exactly what's happening. Do you know, chat? You probably don't. What is happening is that I'm on full screen. It won't allow me to accept the content being of an adult nature from a full screen. I have to do it from here. I understand.
There are new signs of growing tensions in relations between the United States and Israel. CBS's MTS Tayyab is in Tel Aviv for us tonight with the details. MTS.
Good evening. Well, tonight, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is doubling down on his accusation the U.S. is withholding deliveries of weapons to Israel after making a similar claim just days ago. And as Israeli attacks across Gaza intensify. A warning, some of the images in this report may be hard to watch. They are among the smallest survivors. Children covered in dust and blood, rescued from a collapsed building in the immediate aftermath of Israel's airstrikes on the shut.
It's fascinating how CBS deals with this, because the fact is for like 6 months they kind of ignored those children, or blamed those children for dying, and now they're actually looking at them and talking about them, and it feels like I'm in some sort of a weird Twilight Zone.
Refugee camp near Gaza City on Saturday. In the light of day, the scale of the devastation was hard to fathom. Entire buildings pulverized. Dozens were killed and many more wounded in the massive attack that Israel insists targeted what it called 2 Hamas military infrastructure sites. America keeps telling Israel it must stop its attacks, said eyewitness Mohammed Madouk, but at the same time, America is giving Israel weapons that are...
I'm going to pause this because I gotta go back. Because they just got done saying here that Israel claimed that it was attacking 2 Hamas sites, but once again, Israel has given absolutely no evidence for that, and all the on-the-ground interviews, granted I haven't seen too many of them from after this attack, as this happened yesterday. Break now? Oh, I need... thank you. I will hydrate. Who was that? Omega Star, thank you for the hydrate. What was I saying? You can see it. You can see Kristen Wiig up in the corner drinking a massive wine glass. That's hilarious. I forgot about that. Okay. But yeah, I've seen interviews of people. They're all, everything that they've said has contravened what is being said here by what Israel's saying. There was no Hamas, and it was just civilians that have died once again.
Sites. America keeps telling Israel it must stop its attacks, said eyewitness Mohammed Madouk, but at the same time, America is giving Israel weapons that are being used against civilians. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has yet again accused the U.S. of withholding weapon shipments for Israel, telling his cabinet tonight the drop in arms deliveries began 4 months ago without specifying which weapons. For weeks, we asked our American friends to speed up the shipments, he said. We did it time and time again.
God.
Netanyahu's repeated claims have sparked fury from his critics in Israel.
Benjamin Netanyahu crying about not having enough weapons in public is just so shameful. Like, get the fuck out, dude. You've destroyed all of Gaza. Like, 89 to 95% of Gaza. The rest is just, you know, it's just not necessary. Just no more. Ceasefire now.
Been met with confusion and denials from the White House, exposing what's been described as major tensions with the Biden administration. Tensions which are also growing over Israel's actions in the occupied West Bank. Following outrage over this video of Israeli soldiers driving with an injured Palestinian strapped to an army jeep, which a top UN official described as human shielding in action.
Yeah, seriously. And if you haven't seen this story, I'm sorry that we thrust that upon you without any warning. I forgot it was in this report, but yeah, that was an actual human shield. One of the few examples of human shields that I've seen during this whole conflict, if you can call it that. They've all been from Israel, and this one is maybe it's hard to define what's the most disgusting at this point, but it is abhorrent. Oh, God. And coming from, you know, a group of people who have been claiming that the other side is using human shields, and it justifies all of these fucking atrocities that they've been committing, to do something like this it's beyond shameful, and it's beyond, like, I want, like, you know, I hate to bring it down, but it really, it is Like, I try to bring levity to things, I try to bring comedy to things, but this is impossible to do with this. This is just disgusting. And it's absolutely a war crime. Alright, we got more to talk about. Let's go to this. As shelling has continued between Israel and Hezbollah along the Lebanese-Israel border, amid concerns of escalations, which we've been talking about for, I think, at least the last 4 or 5 days. Wait, what happened to the story?
Hezbollah has published another video.
Wait.
It says our area...
This is not... Hold on. Oh, it took me out of my fucking playlist. I hate you, YouTube. I really do sometimes.
There are new signs of growing...
I'm kidding. I don't hate you. Monetize me, please. So sorry, corporate overlords. Just kidding. So yeah, this is just a really short video showing the sites that were at least within camera range for the Associated Press or whomever this is. Ugh. And this back and forth between Israel and Hezbollah, at least according to Hezbollah, is completely avoidable if Israel would stop its onslaught of Gaza and agree to the ceasefire. I do wish they would all stop attacking people. Mostly just because I think that these wars are bad. I know that's a wild theory. Jerry McLean doubling up on Twitch. I support that 100%. Especially considering I was just talking about relating to YouTube and their unwillingness to monetize me. It'll happen. We just need 350 more subs. We're getting there. It's only taken 4 months. I think it would be going better if I was clipping my content. I'm not gonna lie. I do need to start, but it's just like, do I continue with the streaming every night? Of course I must. That's an important part of this. But I also need the clips. The clips are you get fucking traction out there, supposedly. But it's just an added thing to my goddamn list. Which is exceedingly long. Okay, now let's go on. Discuss this just a little bit more broadly. This is from Global News from a day ago, discussing the renewed warnings of increased violence and the spread of that violence in the Middle East in regards to what's currently happening with the sort of stepped up tensions between Lebanon and Israel.
The bloodshed continues. Israeli airstrikes killed at least 40 people in Gaza on Saturday. According to the Hamas-controlled health ministry, the Israeli Defense Forces say they struck Hamas military targets. This man...
I'm sorry, we gotta pause. We gotta pause. Just do it one clip a week? Or do a pin to a YouTube page? I'm not sure what you mean by that last part of it. Pin to a YouTube page. I don't know why that's not making sense to me. I feel like I understand everything YouTube. Like weekly highlights. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I feel like, yeah, to that, but also I really need to do like topic-specific posts. I'm just not doing that good enough. Not doing it good enough. I started trying to do it with the climate, but I also feel like I need to add more to that. Ooh, more Gary dancing in the Twitch chat. What was I saying? Oh, right. I had to stop what the fucking global news was saying over here because we've heard this too many times, and I'm getting just so sick and tired of it that I have to point this out again, that global news felt it incumbent upon them to tell us that the Gaza Health Ministry is run by Hamas. Meanwhile, I can guarantee you this, they will in fact be continuing to use those numbers, and when all of this is over, and I know it's hard to see, but at some point this will all have to come to an end, and they will still be using those numbers because as in all past conflicts relating to this, those numbers have been accepted as they have been accurate, and Israel hasn't spent any real energy or effort or time in trying to make sure that they have accurate assessments of the number of people that they are killing, because it's completely not in their best interest to do so, because it only illuminates the genocidal onslaught that they have been, in fact, carrying out on the people of Palestine.
Says the bombardment put his family in hospital. More violence also in the West Bank. Israel saying it killed 2 militants in a gunfight. The UN Secretary General expressed his deep concerns that one miscalculation could trigger catastrophe.
The people of the region and the people of the world cannot afford Lebanon to become another Gaza.
But less than a day after Antonio Guterres called for restraint, the IDF released video it says shows an airstrike in Lebanon targeting a Hamas weapons supplier. It follows Hezbollah's heaviest attack on Israel since October 7th, its leader threatening the country, and the IDF announcing it had, quote, operational plans for an offensive in Lebanon.
There can always be a mishap. 1 or 2 or 10 of these could raise the stakes without anybody necessarily planning for that.
Yeah, it certainly could. Which is why all of this needs to stop. And Israel could end this anytime they want. They could just, accept the ceasefire, which has been offered by Hamas. They could have done it multiple times, but have chosen not to, time and time again. Now, let's talk more about, oh wait, no, actually, I'm going to hold off on that. But we have a lot more to talk about with regards to the thing we were looking at in the previous video, where they had used a Palestinian as a human shield for a Jeep. But before we do that, this happened over the last 24 hours. It's actually happened sooner. This is from like 12 hours ago. Good God. We've looked at so many of these. And Israel has, if anything, increased its attacks on Gaza since the ceasefire plan was first offered. We've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people die. I think maybe even, it might be close to 1,000 people have died since that ceasefire was originally offered 2 weeks ago. And thousands more have been injured from these attacks. Oh my God, did Twitch just run an ad for me? Why are you always doing this to me, Twitch? I don't appreciate it. Thankfully, multiple people in chat are subscribed, although it looks like at least somebody was just ripped from this viewing experience by not being subscribed. Okay, not that you're missing anything fun. Let's go to this, where 14 hours ago, this is from Al Jazeera English, 4 people were killed in another Israeli attack on UNRWA headquarters. Now, the UNRWA headquarters, I think, is in very north Gaza, if I'm not mistaken. And so this is it's just ridiculous. Okay. Yeah, attacking another aid agency. Pretty sure that counts as a war crime.
We start this news hour with breaking news out of northern Gaza, where at least 4 Palestinians have been killed. Others have been injured. An Israeli shelling that struck the main UNRWA building. The facility had been turned into a warehouse for what little aid had been able to get into Gaza. Hundreds of displaced Palestinians had also been taking shelter there. Israel's attack targeted the compound's main gate, causing tremendous destruction.
We were sitting peacefully and all of a sudden we were hit by a missile and many were killed. I ran out searching for the rest. I found my eldest son injured, the youngest trapped under the debris, and those dead bodies lying there. What wrong did these innocent children do? We are running from death towards death. Young men and women are slaughtered by the Israelis.
This is very frustrating. And I feel like I'm getting too used to seeing UN buildings getting blown up. In no way should that be normalized. That is like the epitome of just complete global just catastrophe. Like if you think that, you know, having countries respect the supposed rule of law that we had established we started establishing like 100 or so years ago and have been trying to amend ever since to you know, incorporate all of these other sorts of atrocities. We're really backsliding on all of that. It's very, very, very concerning, and it's just another example of these sorts of things being too frequent in occurrence. Where's the aid you promised, Biden? It's a great question. Where is the aid that Biden promised? Oh, that's right. It's floating in the Mediterranean right now because the aid pier got moved and is now in Israel, which is not helpful to anybody. Cost, you know, at least $500 million. If you just combine the transporting of the aid and the dock multiple times and fixing the dock, and I think I'm undershooting it honestly with that, but yeah, it's not going super great with the aid. I think we know that here at this channel. We've been keeping our eyes directly on the aid, which is not making its way into Gaza in the fashion in which it needs to be. What are we moving on to? Oh, now we're going to talk about this. Oh, great. Okay, so if you may have not noticed, and I can't even remember if CBS even alluded to this or mentioned it, but the man that you saw tied to the top of that fucking Jeep was not in Gaza, but was in the West Bank. So let's talk about this. This is first, let's look at this one from Reuters.
The Israeli military says it's investigating an incident where Israeli soldiers strapped a wounded Palestinian detainee to the hood of a military vehicle. It happened during an arrest raid in the occupied West Bank city of Jenin on Saturday and was captured on video verified by Reuters. It shows the vehicle passing through 2 ambulances with Palestinian resident Mujahed Azmi.
This is not apartheid, according to Israelis. And defenders of Israel.
This is my cousin Mujahed. He was wounded and stayed here for about 2 to 3 hours.
Nobody believe your lying eyes, okay? Definitely not apartheid. Just military jeeps going through a place they're not supposed to be, as it's illegal according to international law. And then kind of doubling down on war crimes and strapping a civilian to a fucking military vehicle and driving them around. In an actual example of a human shield.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
We were sitting here, and he was wounded in there. They put him on the hood of the Jeep, and then we were told that they handed him over to the governmental hospital.
The Israeli military, in a statement, said Israeli forces were fired at and exchanged fire, wounding a suspect and apprehending him. According to the statement, the soldiers then violated military protocol when the suspect, quote, was taken by the forces while tied on top of a vehicle. The Israeli military said conduct of the forces in the video of the incident does not conform to the values of the Israeli military. It added the individual was transferred to medics for treatment.
This is a very frustrating situation. We have one more video to look at this. But I just saw a Monty Python reference in chat. Is that what that is? A cheap shrubbery? Not too expensive? We are no longer the knights who say nay. We are now the knights who say
Help! Help! I'm being repressed!
Okay, remember when they arrested one woman for liking a tweet? I do remember that. And yeah, that's just one of many examples of unreasonable arrests. Let's also not forget the military quote-unquote hospitals that are dotting the Gaza Strip and the you know, around the border of the Gaza Strip, which Israel is using to indefinitely hold Palestinian civilians and torture them, according to sources that we've seen on this channel. Truly despicable. Pretty much anywhere you look right now. Okay, let's look at this last story regarding this man who is apparently still alive after everything that we've seen here. This is from Al Jazeera from 12 hours ago. Quote unquote, I had hoped to be dead. This is according to the Palestinian man who was used as a human shield by Israeli forces.
Al Jazeera has spoken to an injured Palestinian who appeared to be used as a human shield by Israeli forces in Jenin in the occupied West Bank. Mujahid Abadi was strapped to the front of an Israeli military vehicle on Saturday, which drove past several ambulances. He says Israeli forces continued to beat him while he was injured.
The Israeli soldiers were laughing and mocking me while beating me to death. 2 Israeli soldiers grabbed my hands and 2 others my feet, then started swinging me left and right. I fell to the ground twice, and on the 3rd attempt, they shoved me over the hood. It was extremely hot that my back was burnt. They drove me back and forth for 20 minutes. I had hoped to be dead before the Israeli soldiers arrived. I had expected them to attend to my wounds, not to beat and batter me, while I already had 2 critical injuries.
Well, Nida Ibrahim is in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank with the very latest. I mean, what else has Mujahid Abadi and his family been telling you?
Well, Mujahid is in pain. He's telling us that not only he's been injured in the hand, in the leg, but also there are bruises and pain on his back because he was put on the hood of the Jeep that was burning. It's hot already here in the occupied West Bank, more so in Jenin, and you're talking about a moving vehicle and a scared and injured man. Mujahid.
Oh, God. I don't think that I can say that this is the most blatant example of war crimes committed by Israel, but it's certainly on the list for the competition if there were some sort of a an Olympics of war crimes committed during this last 8 months, but it would, I think it would definitely podium, at least in terms of the most like blatantly obvious sort of like on camera shit. Like it, but it's hard to say. It might not even make the podium because there's just so much. God, you know, I'm gonna stop trying to quantify it because I feel like a really gross person right now. But it truly is just shocking to me that this is happening. That we don't have every single Western nation already condemning it. I looked. I didn't find any as of yet. That happened over 12 hours ago. So. You would think the U.S. would have made some kind of a statement, or somebody would have, but no. But no. That would be...
That's too much, man!
Okay, this is actually our last video of the day. It crept up on me. I wasn't even prepared for it, but well done to all of you who've made it this far. Well... round of applause for you and your undying support and ability to get through these long and arduous streams. This last one's also from Al Jazeera. This is from slightly earlier in the day, about 16 hours ago, where, according to them, 2 U.S. military airmen are seeking to become conscientious objectors over the Gaza genocide.
Now, 2 active members of the U.S. military are seeking resignations on conscientious grounds over American complicity in the war in Gaza. Air Force personnel Larry Hebert and Joanne Betancourt say they can no longer be complicit in Israeli war crimes that are being aided and abetted by the country they signed up to serve. The U.S. anti-war organization.
That's quite a photo. That says so much in one image. Oh, God. And, you know, there's also something of a subcontext to this, or subtext, if you will, with the people just kind of standing around, not even paying attention to this man. Just kind of taking in the sights, if you will, while this man goes on a active hunger strike. Because of images like this on the poster of fucking starving children that are being bombed by American, you know, weapons.
Estimates there are at least 40 other military personnel seeking resignations on the same grounds. Well, Larry Hebert, a senior airman...
They'll just brush it under the rug like the guy that lit himself on fire, Aaron Bushnell. And, yeah, and you would think that brushing a hunger strike is easier under the rug. It was easier than perhaps brushing under the rug you know, a very violent fucking suicide.
Active duty in the United States Air Force joins us now. He does not speak for the military. He's speaking for himself. He joins us from Rota in Spain. Thank you so much for your time, sir. How difficult was it for you to come to this decision to leave the military? What led you to this point?
Yeah, and thank you. For me, it honestly wasn't a difficult decision. Me joining the military in the first place was partially due to, I mean, all of us, we want to serve people, the American people specifically, obviously, but there's no serving the American people in our current policies. We're doing a disservice to people around the world, and I strongly feel that. So that's why I had to apply as a conscientious objector, which has a long history in other conflicts as well as Vietnam and Iraq. So I'm actually proud to kind of, go in the footsteps of our prior conscientious objectors.
And at what point during the war, over the course of the last 8 months, did you go, okay, I've had enough, I can't do this anymore?
Honestly, really early on. I think in November, I actually learned about conscientious objection, and I looked more into it, and I didn't know if I would qualify or not.
I think it's crazy. This is the first time he's ever heard of it because it's been around for a long time. Since before he was born. I assume he's like my age or something.
But I think a lot of service members don't actually know entirely what it is and what their rights are. And so I think it's extremely important to highlight conscientious objector and show people like that it is an option and you can take it. I think a lot of service members feel that they don't know what to do and they don't know how to act in this moment in the past almost a year now. I think this is
ridiculous.
Applying for separation, whether it be through conscientious objection or another form of administrative separation.
Hold on. I can watch this whole thing. You know about it and you're not even American. Yeah. Well, it was a big thing during Vietnam. I blame the education system. The education system that our government seems to want to defund and use that money to pay for more bombs. At least, a certain large portion of our government seems to want to do that. Okay.
You also went on a hunger strike earlier this year, which can't have been very easy and presumably very difficult for those close to you. Why did you make that decision?
I got to a breaking point where I just didn't know what to do. And another major reason for it was the self-immolation of Aaron Bushnell and the silence afterwards of our leadership in the military and in the government. Nobody would even say his name, and he was an active duty service member. So it was, for me, a pretty easy decision to just go straight to DC and try to figure out how I can help and how I can put my voice out there.
And how did the Army react when you did that? I believe you did it when you were on leave.
Yep. So I took leave and I went to DC and I tried different forms of protests and other ways to help. And then, they recalled me from my leave and sent me back after I tried to speak to the chief of staff. But ultimately, it ended up in a letter of reprimand, which isn't a major form of punishment at all. So I think for other people who are looking to do something, I wouldn't discourage anyone from acting in protest.
And it would be nice if we had enough soldiers do so to actually affect policy. That would be great. We need more of this guy. So many more that it's completely impossible to ignore, at least on a governmental level. I don't know what needs to be done to get that going. I'm not sure Al Jazeera covering it's going to do it. Nobody cares. Yeah, unfortunately, not enough people care. Well, made it through another one. Thankfully, I had all of you here with me to help me through it. That's it for me tonight. I'll see you next time. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget this. These are your galactic patrons. Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W, Mitty, PB, Robot Cat, Morbius Dragon, The Anti-Corporatist, Moanoa, Nadia, Mrs. Jen, Omega Star, Pitchforks Dragon, Vincent Morales, and Donald James X. That's right. All of these people here have decided they just can't keep on going in life without helping support the Galactic News Network and everything that we do here. You can too, by going to this link in chat. For a few dollars a month, you can not only support GNN, but also gain access to sweet, sweet space benefits unseen by the rest of the goddamn galaxy.
You should be ashamed of yourself for having that thought. Thanks, Jerk, for the question.
I almost forgot. Can't forget this. Before I even... It doesn't even seem like there's a lot of ones in chat. Maybe we don't even need a Galactic after stream tonight. But... what we do need is this. I almost forgot about this, but I can't, because it's a very important aspect of everything Galactic. Galactic benefactors are people who went to Patreon. They looked at the options. They said, I could be a Galactic producer, or I could be a Galactic benefactor. And the fact is, well, Galactic benefactors have decided they want to support the Galactic News Network even more than your average patron. People like PB, who's often, almost always in chat. He's a lovely person, just like Nadia, who's been somewhat missing in recent days, but is almost always here as well. Moanoa, who's not only here almost every single goddamn day, she also graces us with her fantastic modding on the reg. Remember these folks, people. These are your Galactic benefactors. guess we'll go to the Galactic after party. What do you say?
Girl. Do you know what we're here for?
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
This is from 12 Rules for Life.
Consequences.
Follow me which way, man. China. I have to have my China.
Man, I am loving all the company that I have at the Galactic pool now. It's really starting to get busy around here. The more the merrier. By the way, here's a super secret piece of info. What you're listening to right now is a Galactic original by yours truly. No Cisco. There's Cisco. What do you mean there's no Cisco? There's Cisco's. Cisco is everywhere. Cisco is all up in the ether, in the galaxy. He's also at the bar, and also on Twitch. Anybody, any sort of level of subscriber on Twitch gets access to as many Ciscos as they could possibly put into chat. There's zero limit on how many Ciscos that you can put into Twitch chat. In no way will I be tamping down on free Ciscos. I'm a free Cisco absolutist, okay? Wait, what happened to the music? We need the music. We need more music. What is happening?